music, I know. I spend too much time in the studio. I know you don't support that shit, but I need you in my life, that's why I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you right now. 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 Once again, checking all the places you go with your friends, and I know I need you here at night and make amends. I don't wanna end up on a rooftop thinking about you. I spend too much time getting faded. These other women, they too complicated. Yeah, I know it's you I wanna spend my everyday with. That's why I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you right now. I'm looking for you right now. I'm looking for you right now, right now. I'm looking for you 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 right now.
Just tell me where you wanna go. Let me take you there. You see, I've been around the globe. I've seen a lot, babe. But I wanna see what's above. I wanna see what's below. Just tell me where you wanna go. You can name the place, yeah, you can name the time. We can leave it all behind. No stop or rewind. Before we running out of time. I can see us both flying around, chilling in a pool right by the coast. I can see our clothes down on the floor. I can see it all, baby, we should go. Get set, go, take off. Tell me where you wanna go. North Pole, East, West, baby, I'll go anywhere. We'll take a plane and take a boat. I don't really care, just as long as it will get us there. Cause I wanna see what's above. I wanna see what's below. Just tell me where you wanna go. You can name the place, yeah, you can name the time. We can leave it all behind. No stop or rewind. Before we running out of time. I can see us both flying around, chilling in a pool right by the coast. I can see our clothes down on the floor. I can see it all, baby, we should go. Get set, go, take off. We can leave it all behind. Why? Before we running out of time. I can see us both flying the road, chilling in a boat right by the coast. I can see our clothes down on the floor. I can see it all. Maybe we should both get set, go, take off.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand finals of the CEA Open League. We've got Texas Tech and Grand Canyon University, GCU, and they are here to give us a great show tonight. We've been waiting for this match for quite some time, and we are stoked to be bringing this one to you tonight. My name is Jays Wills, and tonight I am joined by the one and only Coin Man. How are you doing tonight?
I'm having a great time tonight, and I'm also excited for this match. We've only been waiting for about a week or 5 days now since it was originally slated, and then we got to move it out due to some unforeseen wild circumstances. So tonight we are going to be seeing at least 2 maps, hopefully 3. And the first map we are going to be seeing tonight is Clubhouse, I believe, as I go back and check my notes.
Yeah, you are correct. Clubhouse will be map number 1. That is going to be GCU's map pick. That's a strat-heavy map. It's a map that really goes head-to-head with your two rosters. Really, you can see who is the better team on a map like Clubhouse because your Gunners surely can shine there. It is a frag fest like every single map in Siege, but at the end of the day, on Clubhouse, it is your strategy that is going to shine. Our second map of the night will be Cafe, and that's going to be Texas Tech's pick. And Cafe, I would say, is still strat focused, but leans more in favor of the Gunners, of these strong players on Texas Tech, hence why they chose to go to that map. And I want to talk a little bit about how these two teams got to this point. It was Texas Tech who emerged undefeated in the regular season, a clean 5-0, and then they steamrolled their way through the open playoffs, delivering decisive victories after decisive victories. Let me just read off a couple of score lines here. 7-0, 7-2, 7-2, 7-1, 7-1, 7-2 again, 7-2, then 7-5. This is a team that destroys everyone they come across. So they are going to be looking to do that to GCU tonight. But GCU are not going to go down without a fight. This is a roster that emerged into the open playoffs as a 47th seed. So nobody expected them to do as well as they have this season, but they worked their way methodically, slowly, but they did it. And now they are here in the grand finals, taking down some notable teams like Virginia Tech and UNC Charlotte, and they have earned their place here tonight, and they are going to be looking to take this fight to Texas Tech, take us all the way to map 3, and show everyone in the Siege community that Texas Tech is not the stacked roster that it is said to be, and GCU have the power to take them down.
See, that's the big thing here, is that while being a stacked roster, that does not predicate you from necessarily being defeated by, and also, ostensibly, as we've seen, may not necessarily be stacked, but the quality of teamwork is really what has been driving them towards their success over the past many, many weeks. Because, at least in the way the Open League playoffs works, there are a lot more games involved compared to what the invite people have to do. So they're just... the sheer number of games both of these teams have seen, at least in the playoff setting, is extremely large.
Oh, I absolutely agree, and I think that is going to come into play here tonight. But let's talk a little bit about some of these specific players that we can highlight on these rosters. Specifically, on the side of Texas Tech, I'm thinking of Bate and Buck. Buck is a player with the highest, if not the second highest, KD in all of CEA Open League. He has put up ridiculous, and I mean ridiculous numbers, match after match. And then there's Bate, who is a well-established T3 player on a team first attempt, also known as Dallas Vendetta. That is a very strong team performing at high levels at T3. So Bate knows how to play at a very high level of Siege, and he's surely going to be leading his team to do that tonight. But on the side of GCU, I have my eye on Cash, CB, and Klimps. Now, these 3 players have put up really, really good numbers this season, and they're going to be looking to continue that tonight. Spreading the wealth between all of those players will surely be the way that Grand Canyon may need to have this path to victory.
So it looks like here, coming in, at least for our first ban on Clubhouse, for the operator bans, we have a really snap pick second ban, but the first one being Thatcher. It shouldn't really surprise anyone at this point. And the second one being Maverick, which basically means that without a Kali, your cash wall is going to be, or BCC wall is going to be very much closed. And that's going to make it really hard for Hatches to open. Also, the really fast snap ban coming out from Grand Canyon on Malusi as well.
Well, the combination of the Thatcher and the Maverick ban also means you're almost guaranteed to have that Kaid ban, not allowing those Electro Claws to be in play. We're going to have to take a look at that last ban as it rolls out, because, of course, you would expect to see that Kaid ban, and we will, because those invulnerable Kaid Electro Claws can be so suppressive, especially when placed on the plat wall, the CCTV wall, and used on those hatches going down into Church and Arsenal. If those are locked off by some invulnerable Electro Claws, it's almost impossible to get those open. In the case of that wall and CC, even with a Kali Lance, it is not going to matter if you place those Electro Claws in the right spot. That is why we're going to see him banned here, and that is why the defenders are going to have to bring a different form of that hard breach denial. But for now, it seems that no hard breach denial will be coming out from Texas Tech as we head over to round number 1. The first defense going to be Church and Arsenal.
Yeah, as we see here, we got our very standard picks. We have a Smoke, Jaeger, Maestro, Legion, and Valkyrie. Even coming out of the 6 picks, nobody changed anything. And then on the attacker side, we have a Habana, Thermite, Buck, Zofia, and Montaigne. And it looks like we are going downstairs first, which is a little bit different than what we normally see. We normally see the CCTV cache being first. But throwing this kind of curveball may be exactly what both teams possibly expected. Just due to the nature of having both the Habana and the Thermite is definitely something that signals that they were possibly planning for this eventuality, especially considering no 6 picks were taken.
Yeah, and we are going to see teams try to mix it up exactly where they're going to want to head on these sites, time to time, especially because you can catch the other team off balance just a little bit, or simply you may prefer one site over the other. We see so many strategies on Clubhouse being developed and really showed to everyone by some very prominent C1 rosters, those Pro League teams. Specifically, I'm thinking about SSG and that SSG-style roam, or Dark Zero and those Dark Zero-style attacks. These teams have popularized this type of strategy, And a lot of rosters, working their way all the way down to the collegiate level, have used those strategies, have implemented them, and are going to be looking to bring them to the forefront tonight. But what we're not going to see in round number 1 is any sort of super extended roam presence from Texas Tech. This is very much an anchor strategy. We see the majority of our defenders on site here. The only one we're not going to have our eye on right now will be the Smoke, but he'll be positioned in dirt, now being pressured out by the aggressive Monty of CB.
Looks like Monty coming in here, getting hyper-aggressive, even deploying the shield. C4 going out as well, multiple trying to pressure the Monty out. Monty then get down by, killed by Cancun, but down by the Smoke as we see the push coming in from dirt being stopped. Now we're kind of at a stall here with about a minute 45. We see Cash coming around and trying to figure out exactly what to do from the top. And we get to see the new fancy thing coming out from Habana here. A total 2 pellets instead of having to use all 6. So you can actually now dynamically change the number of pellets, which means that when you have a total of 18 pellets, you actually get 1 more shot coming in on that hatch than you normally would get in terms of wasting those impacts.
Well, so Quinn, the strategy they're also implementing, sorry to cut you off there, is that impact trick bait, essentially. Putting only 2 on the hatch is not going to open up the hatch by any means, but it will bait out the impact trick from a Legion or a Maestro below, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now.
Yep, and now we're at a minute left here. We see the Buck moving out and doing some demolition over on the top side of those stairs to try and get eyes onto the downstairs main hallways. We see Buck coming around and taking out Cash. I believe that would be coming from the CCTV stairs. And now we got about a minute 50. We got about 50 seconds left here as we still got multiple people in different places trying to flesh the roamers out.
Yeah, we do have one very persistent roamer. That's going to be Buck on this Jaeger. And with 40 seconds remaining in this round, GCU need to force him out or ignore him and go on site. But Bait's going to make that a bit harder, taking down Sus. And now in a 2v5, it's Klimps and Mend. Mend now giving up on that Jaeger, going straight for the site. Should be able to find one as he swings. Will do that, but immediately traded off by Pokey Spartan. Men taken down. It's all up to Klimps in a 1v4 with 15 seconds left. He's got full HP, not an impossible situation, but the prone smoke around the corner, and Bait with the M590 will do just that. He will take out Klimps, and Texas Tech will take round number 1 in decisive fashion.
Yeah, that wasn't a perfect round. There only was 1 death, I believe, on the side of Texas Tech, and that was definitely decisive. Even choosing the downstairs, just taking that offbeat and really making it that definitive. Now we actually see the Bandit and the Wamai picked, which definitely signals moving up to CCTV and Cash compared to before, where when you don't really see any electrification and or mute, that generally signals that you're going to go downstairs. Now we'll see if we have any 6 picks here in the pick screen here, and it looks like we got none. Everyone just roughly sticking to their guns and what norms are for the particular site they're going for.
Yeah, we are going to see Pokey Spartan here on the Bandit, like you mentioned, and the 6 pick over to the Sledge. But we're going to have to keep an eye on Pokey Spartan.
We lied about the 6 pick.
Oh, yeah, there we go. The 6 pick changes around over to Yana there. But, we see the Bandit. We're going to have to keep an eye on if it's going to be an active Bandit trick or simply just placing those Bandit batteries on the wall and, moving away from that position. It can be a very risky spot to Bandit trick, especially if you're not going to play in Lounge. Sometimes we will see teams run a castle and go for a Lounge hold to allow the Bandit to actively trick the wall, but it's easy for an attacker to come below, and with the frag grenades that Klimps is bringing to the table, as well as the impacts from the Zophia's utility, you will easily be able to get into Lounge and force out the Bandit from tricking on that wall and take out the Bandit batteries in the process. But we're not going to have a Kali on the board, which means, we have 2 hard breachers, but we're going to have to see that Lounge pressure come out, or at least a utility dump coming in from the CCTV window to get those Bandits off the wall.
Just a quick note here, if you haven't seen this before, with a recent patch, I believe it was either last week or the week before, at least when the new season dropped anyway, you actually can see reinforcements are going up markedly faster than what we were before. We also do see the 2 pellet hole in the upper right, so that you're able to, in the lower left here, it looks like we see Canned Coot here coming out, taking the white pick out to the Habana, and Habana managing to see the shoulder first while taking a lot of damage here.
Yeah, it's early on going to be a 4v5 in favor of GCU, taking out the Wamai in that Raptors position very early on, and that is a good start for GCU, and now they're going to be looking to continue that pressure, but Buck gets very aggressive. He'll find one, but Sus will immediately trade that one out. The aggression of Buck working initially, but punished immediately after the nade onto Espen from Klimps. Will find one. Will he be able to get away in time, or will this nade finish him off? It looks like it will do that. And Espen, the next Texas Tech player to fall. Now a 2v4, Pokey Spartan and Bait, the last alive, and Pokey Spartan getting extremely aggressive here on Raptors, doing multiple swings, looking for the shots, but denied. The over-aggression punished by Cash, and now it's Bait in a 1v4, but he's down in Lounge, and he found one. Now he's going to rotate all the way around, but a 1v3, and it's a smoke. This is going to be a challenging clutch, but it's not impossible. This is the player you would want in that situation.
Yeah, as we see the plant going down here, they now got about 45 seconds to try and, or really, it's more like 40 and change because of how the diffuse timer works. And we got multiple people holding angles from the outside. We see a head here, narrowly missing the head of Klimps. And Klimps manages to take the bait, I guess some might say. That was going to happen at some point, wasn't it? As it winning the round.
Yeah, that's going to be a decisive round there from GCU. They didn't waste any time getting control of Garage. That was the key focal point for this round. Not only did we see multiple frags go down in there, a lot of aggression, but Buck also ran out on that Garage door. It was that early opening of that T1 wall in Garage that allowed the Habana to get that line of sight and deliver that opening pick. And really from there, the Garage control collapsed, and despite struggling to open the CCTV wall, Raptors control was surrendered. The site was soon to fall after that, and at the end, it was all up to one player. It was all up to Bait to try to make it happen, and he simply could not do that with the SMG-11 against 4 hungry GCU players.
Yeah, also important to note here, this goes along with that Habana change we saw. You are now able to open a lot more crouch holes because you really only need about 4 pellets to get a reasonable enough size to either get your vision up onto the rafters from the right-hand panel of the Garage, or just to crouch in if you use the lower left-hand side, at least on the left-hand Garage door. So just the ability to change the number of pellets you use has greatly, I guess, increased the utility that Habana actually provides, just because of that. There's some very specific nuances as to how like 4 pellet breaching works.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And now we are going to see Texas Tech try to defend CCTV and Cash once again. Only the other 2 sites on the border, of course, your quaternary bomb site of Bar and Stock, and your tertiary bomb site of Gym and Bedroom. Now, Gym and Bedroom is a site that's been increasingly creeping into the meta, and usually you will see teams, hit that at least once or twice on their defensive halves. But after that round loss on CCTV, Texas Tech are going to head back there rather than going for that tertiary bomb site. We will have a Doc on the board, and he's going to take quite a bit of damage from this Garage door. Thankfully, he can stim himself right back up to full HP with that stim pistol, but now he is in a vulnerable position here on the Raptors. Looks like this will be the Raptors player, but look who's on the flank. That is Buck on the Jaeger, trying to get up here into secret and possibly catch out this Lounge player. And that's Klimps looking to frag out those bandit batteries from below and force the bandit off the wall.
It looks like this is likely going to happen. It depends on how aggressive Buck gets, but it looks like, let's see who sees it first. And ooh, Buck misses the shot, so now we know exactly where Buck is. Sus taking a little tidbit there, it looks like coming in from Rafters side here, and manages to get the CC open. So now we got the person on Rafters generally stuck there being Doc, and we also now have Buck more roaming somewhere around the downstairs Stock side. And it looks like the drone actually managed to get some really decent intel here, as Ayana is going to drop down to maybe try and rotate and clear out the Buck as the Doc gets flashed out, maybe in preference for a push. Yep, quick push coming up from the Habana, coming up, and 2 dead. Men getting Candcoot and Klimps getting Buck.
Well, this is another great start from GCU. Exactly what they need to kick off this match in a great fashion. Now a 3 versus 5. It's going to be up to these remaining anchors to stall out this push with a minute remaining just about in this round. but they're going to have to be wary of this crossfire push. Klimps finds one, Espen's the next to fall. Here come the flashes, and here comes Clintz up the stairs. He's not looking at the player right next to him, and PokeSpartan finds it, but not before Klimps can find bait, and CB will finish that round off in style, taking out the Bandit and winning the back-to-back rounds for GCU. This is some great stuff we're seeing from them early.
This is great stuff, and also a rather interesting comedy of errors where this might be something that we might see a little bit coming on later. That's not that lack of, I guess, not necessarily situational awareness, but just a little bit of vision to check that corner, because two separate people walked by the Bandit. Also, I'll admit the Bandit wasn't exactly looking the right way either, just because it was a 1v3, so you don't really have much to go. But when two separate people walk by someone who is in direct vision of you, that's definitely something that may come back later, at least in terms of how they operate, especially in those slightly more aggressive pushes that we'll see as we see the defensive side in TTU push going back down to Church Arsenal.
Yeah, they're going to be heading back to that site that they were able to successfully defend the first time around, but I'm not going to get too crazy with my predictions early on here, but this is a really good place for GCU to be right now. After back-to-back successful attacks on a very defensive-sided site, on Clubhouse, on a map that generally goes 4-2 in favor of the defense, this is very good for them. If they can continue this momentum and really keep on that pressure on the attack on that CCTV and cache site, regardless of what happens in this round, that is a great spot for GCU to be going into that second split potentially. But in round number 4, our focus will remain on the basement. The last time GCU seriously struggled to get much traction on this site, it was the push in dirt was shut down by bait. The push down main was shut down as well, and the push really just never could get going from any direction at all. So GCU are going to have to pivot a little bit, change things up to try to find some holes in this Texas Tech defense, just like they found on that CCTV and cache site.
So here's an interesting question as we see something that you may note here, at least as viewers. There actually are significantly less shields on the defensive side here. So there's actually only one shield coming out from smoke here in bait. But in general, Malusi lost one, and a couple other people lost them as well. So you're going to see significantly less shields coming in, and that's what played a big factor, at least, on the successful prevention of the push coming in from the Monty in dirt. So now it looks like we're just doing our standard upstairs sweep to make sure that we don't have any roamers, and at least we can see that there aren't any roamers, though though Grand Canyon doesn't necessarily know that. It looks like PokeSpartan's going to be holding there to maybe try and get the good impact trick, or at least force them to have it. And we do see a thrown C4 from Kanku coming out and missing, though it does give them vision onto the window.
Well, the missed C4, definitely a missed opportunity for the Soul Nitro Cell wielder. That's going to be Cancute in this round. The Moto hatch now opened up. Cash with that drone in position. Sus already down main stairs here, getting this church wall open right away with these Selmas. Buck a ring around the rosy with a Yana drone, but finally getting rid of it as Klimps has now figured out the positioning of the Jaeger. Cash now pressuring onto the extremely aggressive Espen. What are you doing on that breach? Cash will find that pick early, and GCU, once again, they have this man advantage in round number 4.
Yeah, now with about a minute left here, we do see a little bit of damage, and a plant's going down somewhere in the backside where they cleaned out the Maestro, so it looks like we're going to have to do a reverse retake here. Buck getting mended, and then CB getting Cancute as well. Sus getting downed and killed by the smoke immediately after planting. Cash coming in, getting Buck, and Klimps getting PokeSpartan, so now it's bait again. Bait versus the world is going to be the story of this defensive half today with 30 seconds left here. You see one tagged one getting reasonable damage dealt here, and also Smoke getting pinged by that a little bit here. Now, as you look at our health markers, you got one in blue. The blue one gets killed. Bait getting the double kill, and now you got to fight the one both on the stairs here. Seeing the shoulder, not able to get that out with 15 seconds left. There's not necessarily time to get the diffuser. We see the one in Moto, one on stairs. Just too many people in too many different places. There just isn't enough eyes to see where everybody is, nor is there enough time, as Grand Canyon takes the round again.
That is exactly how that one went down, and GCU are looking strong. This is very impressive siege we're seeing from them. I don't think anyone expected to see this one tonight and the way this one is unfolding in front of our eyes, but GCU are looking clean. That was another clinical attack round. They took Church and Arsenal pretty handily, just like they took the previous 2 rounds. And now Texas Tech will be forced to repeat this bomb site or head back to the site that they've been unable to defend at all so far in map number 1. So Texas Tech are no doubt on the back foot here. This is not a position they are used to being in. Of course, they have not been as strong as some of the Titans of Siege. Maybe, Akron cannot be compared, but you have teams like UGA and Texas Tech who have gone back and forth and across these various leagues in the collegiate Rainbow Six ecosystem here. And Texas Tech, no matter how you splice it, this is not a spot they expected to be here tonight. And I think this is exactly why Grand Canyon brought us to this map. They expected that they would do well on Clubhouse. They prepped the VOD review. They know exactly what Texas Tech is going to bring to the table. And so far, it is working out and paying dividends for them.
Yeah, this is something else I'd be curious to see discussion of. I don't know if I think it was the most recent, chart that Ubi released in reference to, your win deltas of operators. They made a specific point that, at least in past season, before, many of these changes came out, that the attacker side in Plat and higher was actually slightly favored. Now, I wonder if GCU said, okay, we think we have moderately superior gun skill based on what we see on VODs, if that's a consideration they may just think that, if the game, on average, not necessarily in Pro League in this setting, is attacker-sided favored, we might be able to swing this way if we think we just got that slight edge on the gunplay just in that particular case. Because, at least in the way Clubhouse works, sure, it may, seem defender-sided. A lot of this is predicated upon your fragging ability, just because Clubhouse, even though it is still a relatively large map, there's a lot of roam space. You got to be able to win your one-on-ones, and right there they narrowly lost the one-on-one, CB getting down by Cancute. So that's kind of what we're doing, and Buck hiding themselves from the Iana, running down the main stairs. But basically the essence of what I was getting at here is, if they think they can win those one-on-ones, this kind of map is just going to clean it up and be more in their favor than average, as Cash manages to take the last vestiges of Cancute out.
Well, we are seeing Buck here on the ultimate stealth play. He's tucked himself under the table in bar completely stealthily. 2 attackers are around him in his grasp. The question is, when will he strike? The trigger discipline will shine. He'll look for 1, but miss the shots. He'll whip out the pistol and find 2. He looks for the 3rd, denied by Cash, but Buck has done his job. The beautiful double kill with the pistol to bring this round back in Texas Tech's favor. And the whiffs coming out from Buck there. He's clearly not feeling good about that one. And this one will now be a 2 versus 2, a minute 15 to go. Both of these teams have ample utility to work with. Pokey taking quite a bit of damage there, as Espen, now aware of the Moto push coming in from GCU, looking around with the Alda, trying to find anyone. He's got 81 bullets to do it, so he is feeling confident holding this angle. Now playing this a bit more passively, the Yana drone comes in, will suss his position out. Cash now going down an oil pit to get this push up blue going, as Klimps continues to try to find some lucky shots onto Pokey Spartan. Nothing will land just yet now. 40 seconds to go. Another goo mine hits the floor, as the nades will now rain on in from Klimps over in Moto. Espen, a little bit of damage, but nothing crazy, as Klimps will find 1. Espen answers, now a 1v1 with 28 seconds to go. Both players trading blows. Espen misses the first headshot, but Klimps is now at 2 HP. Espen also 1 or 2 shots away from death as well. The Yana bait is not going to prove successful, as now Espen still waiting behind the bomb, tucked away, waiting for Klimps to walk on in, because Klimps does not have the diffuser and is going to have to make something happen. He'll shoot it, and he will get it. GCU with round number 5, the 4-1 lead now firmly in their grasp.
The bomb was the crux of that situation, because the Maestro just positioned himself in such a rather awkward position. Repetitive, I know, but that bomb just happened to block the entire doorway, which allowed the Iana just to walk right outside of the FOV and find the Maestro first. But one thing I will comment on here is that that Buck earlier in the round, that is exactly what I was talking about, that kind of situational awareness. Or bait, No, it was Buck on Mozzie, the Mozzie. Either way, the Mozzie should not have lasted that long, period. That should have been found out. And that's one of these things that we're going to see as we move into Cafe, where there are a lot more of these corner cases and places where you can miss people just due to how the hallway and the map has been rebuilt, where I think on Cafe that might be a detriment. So if this map just keeps going this way, I have a feeling that we might end up going to 3, because now that we've seen this roughly the same situation happen twice, I wouldn't put it past Grand Canyon to see that happen again on Cafe, where there are even more places for something like that to happen.
I want to touch on a point you made earlier while we were watching Buck, hide under that table there. Did you say Siege goes generally attacker-sided? Is that what I heard you mention, or was I mistaken?
So I'm just going to clarify. Based on Ubisoft stats that they have published in Platinum and above in ranked spheres, they have said that there's about a 3 to 5% win delta in favor of attackers.
Interesting. Okay, because I would say in competitive, the game, at least most maps, will still almost always, lean defender-sided, but we are seeing, with the change in the meta that's come, and now the 20-second slightly being shaken up here, especially with this new patch, and the new Jaeger and Wamai changes brought into this meta, I think we will see, like you said, I think there will be a slight increase in the attacker prowess across all maps, not specifically just the maps traditionally considered attacker-sided, pretty much only Coastline being the map I'm thinking of there. But,
yeah,
I do agree with your point that definitely attacker-sided meta will possibly be working its way into Siege here, as now we move on to round number 6. Texas Tech on the back foot still, looking for any traction, trying to stop this brutal GCU momentum, and Cancute is going to be on the roam on that vigil roll, looking to do exactly that. The shots come out from Cash on this wall bang, will not connect. Cancute gets the impact. He does have an avenue to escape, but he is patiently waiting. But is that patience maturity? Is it discipline? Or is it simply the incorrect move? Cash now swinging around and finds the headshot. Turns out he should have dropped down earlier and spared his life, as now he will be lounging on that hatch, relegated to camera duty for the remainder of round number 6.
Important to note here, much of that health that was taken off is that there was an attempted spawn peek outside the back of Red, and then he just got caught out on it. And that basically prompted him to go push him out, because there just really isn't anything to go. If you already have someone over on Cash side, and you have someone watching the red stairs, you can't really go anywhere else aside from Jim, and you just gotta try and pinch him out. And at least waste a little bit more time here. With a minute 13 left, it looks like we're getting all the hatches open. Buck getting hit, at least when trying to challenge the kitchen hatch and being moderately unsuccessful there. Now we got everybody having a party inside of church there, it looks like.
Well, that can be quite dangerous as the frag grenades start to be poured on in from Klims, but it will not get past the soft wall there. It will not sneak in that slight space between the reinforcement and the ceiling. The first down's going to come out. That's going to be Buck delivering the down and the Pokeball kill on to Klims. So keeping us even now in a 4v4 as we enter the execution phase of this round. It looks like CB and Sus both pushing down main stairs are going to be looking to get this church wall open, possibly establish a crossfire from that Moto entrance into church to get that plant down in combination with that dirt push from Cash. Cash finds one. Espen on the swing finds one, finds two, as CB will also hit the dirt. Texas Tech once again still keeping this advantage. 10 seconds now remain as Sus gets cut down by Buck. Cash with the response onto Pokey Spartan, but now he has to find two and frag chase with 3 seconds left. And Espen with the Alda will deny it, and Texas Tech will hold on to some hope on Clubhouse and will find a second round.
So what do you think was the difference there? At least from what I can tell, the real difference is that Grand Canyon allowed the Maestro and Espen to swing out into Moto. And that was the big flaw in that plan. Because as you noticed, the Maestro managed to get 2 kills and then not nearly get a third just because they didn't check that side. They had the bodies to do it, and they just didn't do it. And I think that's really what cost them that round. And a 5-1 is significantly better, at least in the schema of how these games work. Now that especially you're skewing towards your defensive half, right? Just having to win 2 rounds is infinitely better than having to win 3, especially if you have signaled that this map is going to be attacker-sided. Because that's kind of the tempo you says, like, okay, this is now suddenly an attacker-sided map, so we just giving the opponent more opportunities to be able to make that fact true is not exactly where you want to be.
Right, well, Clubhouse is definitely not an attacker-sided map. At least we have not seen enough in this new meta to rule it that. It's always been defensive-sided, and it continues to be, at least thus far, until we see new stats. We will have to assume this is defensive-sided. It usually goes 4-2. Defense will secure that, and then on that second half, the team that was previously attacking definitely has it within them to then win 4 rounds on defense and take it to overtime. So on Clubhouse, I usually like to say it is on attack where you shine, where you have the ability to make the difference in the map, because the defensive rounds are supposed to be the wins. It's the default win. You're supposed to win CCTV. You're supposed to win Church and Arsenal. And if you don't, it's simply because either you don't have the strat going for you, but I'm not going to, because Texas Tech definitely does. It means that the attacking squad is well practiced, they're ready to go, and they have a brilliantly planned execute on to the bomb site. And I think Grand Canyon getting 4 rounds here hugely shows how good they are at this map, how well prepared they are to take this map tonight. But Cancun will start off round number 7, giving Texas Tech the edge in this round, finding Klims.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying, is like they suddenly forced it to be attacker-sided, which is something that the map patently isn't, right? They have to force Texas Tech to try and just do it and get it done. As we see the Cancun coming out, it looks like we're going to try and get him from below by blowing up the hatch here. CB managing to get Pokespartan, and now he has the solid 4-4-4 stat line, 4 assists, 4 kills, and 4 deaths, which is rather irregular to see here with a minute 50 left, where they're just trying to navigate. And Texas Tech is just trying to navigate being attacker side. It looks like the Bandit finally has eyes on the shoulder of Bait, being unable to actually connect. It looks like we have 2 drops, so we're going to have a whole pile of people out in construction and connector. Maybe a little bit into the logistics up on the top floor with a minute 30 left.
Yeah, now we are going to have to see this execute start to build from Texas Tech. It appears that this construction side push is what they have in store. Bait fully droning it out. Assisting the swing now will be Cancun on that Ash, but the shots from CB will find one. Bait will be the next player to hit the floor, and now it is a 3 versus 4 in the favor of GCU once again. Sus on the bullet hole angle, but gets taken out from the swing from Buck in the breach. Finds 1, looks for a second on Raptors, will find 2, and now he looks for more. Cash and CB, the last players alive. Cancun finds CB, and now it's all up to Cash. He is downstairs in secret, and now he has to do the retake with the MPX. This is a tough situation with a P shooter in for hands. The Valkyrie is going to have to try to make something happen. Does have a C4, could potentially deny this plant, but's going to have to deal with the players now really positioning for this potential post-plant situation. Buck does have the diffuser, though, and is outside and has to come in this breach, and this is exactly where Cash could capitalize. Sprays the shots out, will reveal the position of the Valkyrie. C4 in a position potentially to catch out the default plant, but smartly Buck will head over to Cash and get the plant down on green box, and now a probable impossible situation for Cash, and yes, Espen will seal it out for Texas Tech, keeping them in this fight 3-4, the scoreline now.
So the question is what changed, right? Because we know, like, okay, we have decided, at least from our caster perspective, that you're supposed to win these rounds, especially on the defensive side, and the ones you're supposed to lose is most definitely not Cash. So it looks like they're going to be trying Cash again here. What do you think that GCU has to change to do it, aside from not losing Klims early? Because that was one of the biggest things here, is that the Roamer didn't really do anything to waste time, even though they did about 50% on Cancun. That didn't do anything within the scheme of flavoring the round and trying the feel and tempo of how that's supposed to go. So I think that's just a lot to do, is that they just kind of have to take control over the tempo of the round, which is just something they simply didn't do in their first defense.
Well, yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on with that, and I do want to talk about, like you mentioned, like, what is the win condition for these teams? What is, shaking these rounds up, and why has Texas Tech suddenly taken 2 rounds in a row? And usually I would, have a strategy that they have changed up, something to touch on that says, this is why. This is the strategy they changed up on that last offensive round. Here's what they did on that attack that was just too good. but unfortunately, I don't really have that. We've seen the same strategy brought from Texas Tech on the defensive rounds, even when they won it, compared to when they lost it, and this attacking round was awfully similar. They are falling back on their gun skill right now, and that is okay. It seems to be working for them, at least in these back-to-back rounds, but we talked about Clubhouse is strat focused. You need to have that strat focused mindset coming in, and as Klimps finds Cancute, the Ash off the board early on, the gun skill from Texas Tech, it doesn't matter if it's being shut down by some equally smart and aggressive, calculated plays from a player like Klimps, who is now 10-5, putting on an absolute show for us.
Interesting small note here with that Ash being gone. That actually makes it significantly harder to open connector because it is soft, but that means they suddenly now have to dedicate a Zofia impact to it, or at least try and get the sledge over there. But if you got two people in connector, trying to sledge that wall is incredibly dangerous. And it looks like now we're going to see the Ace coming out with those Selma Aqua Breaches to get that wall open. Change that happened a number of weeks ago, just for people who may not have seen it, is that each of those Aqua Breaches only does two sets of 6 pellets per se instead of 3, and it looks like the Mute is trying to face check the sledge who did the upside down rappel to open up in connector, and they did not get eyes on the sledge as we're moving into about a minute 40 left here.
Yeah, it looked like Cash wanted to answer the Texas Tech aggression with some aggression of their own, but so far, that one at least did not work out so well. Bait now cooking that frag grenade, looking to toss it in towards that plat wall. Will not connect with anybody, burned by an ADS. Still outside this CCTV and construction window. Klimps going to open it up a bit. Espen will now be prepared to challenge on that if Klimps were to do that once again. Mend will swing, though, and find one. That's going to be Buck, who's pushing down in garage. And now PokeSpartan very aware that he is now completely exposed from a potential run out, as Espen will find somewhat of an answer and will find the fatal blow on to the Jaeger. So it will now be a 3 versus 4. Still, GCU, the man advantage. They are on top right now, and with this wall still electrified, they're going to have to clear out these bandit batteries if they want any hope of pressuring from here, but Bait runs straight on into sight. Finds 2, but Cash with the answer, and there goes another pick in the favor of GCU, but then PokeSpartan has the answer. Now it's a 1 versus 1. PokeSpartan going for the diffuser plant now in Cash. Cash will be lurking on Raptors, looking to get this run and try to stop this plant from going down, but it will not happen. Now it's a post plant. Now it's Cash who is forced to be the attacker, and PokeSpartan who will look to hold down this site as long as possible. Cash trying to open as many lines of sight as possible, will swing it, but the trade comes out, and of course the diffuser was planted, so the attackers in that trade situation will have the round win.
So, I've noticed here is that somehow, in the last 30 seconds, while having the man advantage, Grand Canyon loses sight, loses CCTV inexplicably, right? At least in terms of, the dynamics we're seeing here, the reason why both of these rounds have failed, at least in terms of the defense, is somehow Texas Tech just walks in. There isn't a challenge. They walk in, get 2 frags, and suddenly it's even, and then they just happen to lose the 1v1 gunfights. So the question is how do you end up in a position where Texas Tech can just walk in twice?
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's a tough thing to counter, because Texas Tech right now, like I was mentioning in that previous round, they are just continuing to pour on the aggression. They have not slowed down. If not, I think maybe even gotten more aggressive. We saw in their last offensive round how Buck and Bait were just going for ridiculous plays, swinging every angle, challenging everything. But because, the presumed gun skill advantage that Bait and Buck are bringing to the table here, that is why these last 2 rounds have gone heavily in the favor of Texas Tech. So, it's not inexplicable per se, but it's definitely nothing strat-wise that they're changing up to make this happen. It is simply an unbridled aggression coming out from Texas Tech that has won them these last 3 rounds, and they are going to be looking to once again continue that pressure, continue that aggression, as now GCU, after 2 back-to-back unsuccessful defensive rounds on CCTV, will elect to head towards Church.
Looks like we're using the Selma Aqua Beachers to go get Dirt open right up and quick here. Just to get the quick push into there. It looks like they just have given it up, just forcing Texas Tech just to use utility on Dirt. They just have barricaded the door, and that's about all they got on that particular axis. They're really carefully checking those doors that they got from the last time. Klimp's managing to get our good friend Kuja on the Ash the first time that they did not check those doors. So they are very, very carefully checking those doors. Now it looks like Buck is going to then open up the Dirt door and drone down as a good C4 coming out from Cash onto... That looks like it probably was Kitchen. Yeah, that was a very good Kitchen on Kitchen C4 onto the Ash there. Though may not necessarily be the person they wanted, but just getting that small man advantage early can be really big in terms of the tempo of the round.
Yeah, and the tempo of this round definitely slower than the previous one. Texas Tech hasn't found much other than a player in the grave, of course, being that the Ash. And now Buck patiently waiting here in Dirt, allowing for the kitchen hatch to be opened up before he gets any further aggression going. Cash will be fully aware of where this push is coming from, and positioned in logistics could get pretty cheeky with some vertical play if Texas Tech are not careful. They haven't bothered to figure out where the Valkyrie is positioned. The drones and the clear has not come all the way into Logi, so Buck will continue to focus directly mounting this pressure onto the site, and Cash, right now at 11 and 6, has free roam of this top floor right now and is starting to work a flank.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's actually really checking those stairs, because if you look at both the positions of the Hibana and the Sledge, nobody really knows where Cash is, and nor are they really checking, because they're just making the assumption that everyone's downstairs. And that will likely be a problem, as you see the swing around coming in from Cash, downing Espen. Getting downed on the drop, it looks like, so I guess that would be the Legion. I would attribute that to the Legion or the Mute in that particular case, as we see Buck coming in and pushing CB, managing to almost get 2 here, but Espen is likely going to bleed out. Somebody doing the run out all the way outside here. Yep, Cash doing the run out from the red here, and probably going to get the down person here, as Sus also manages to get Buck. Now that we're in a 2v4, we got a lot of people staring at each other, and then, okay, so the down person stayed down, and then Cash manages to get Hocus Spartan. I believe that was me coming out from Cash here today.
Well, that is exactly what we talked about, in that round. Cash, free roam of the top floor, and easily secured the flank and secured the triple kill, like you said. And that really was just simply a mistake from Texas Tech. They did not bother to do the top floor full roam clear. Or maybe they did, but they just did not figure out where the Valk was positioned. They didn't fully get the drone work flawless. And so that is the simple reason why they lost that round. GCU will now take the 5-4 lead. You take a look at this scoreboard here. You see Cash and Klimps putting on a show. 13 kills, 10 kills. And the only one to compare to that is Buck, who has the 10 bomb on the side of Texas Tech as well. So moving in to round number 10, the focus is once again on this GCU defense, because we move back to CCTV and Cash, the site that Texas Tech took rather aggressively and somewhat cleanly 2 rounds in a row, being Church the only site that GCU could mount a successful defense. And Texas Tech right now are continuing that aggression. Despite losing the rounds here or there to dominant strategy and very smart plays from GCU, they are continuing to lay on the aggression, and it has mixed results.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where we just have to see if GCU is ready for, oh look, we got the CCTV wall open, we're just gonna walk in. They just gotta be prepared for that, because at least the first 2 times they most definitely weren't, and then lost the round for it. So I have a feeling that that is going to be a key element, at least in the how this round pans out, because who cares about tempo and who gets the first kill, because Cancun was the first death. Seems to be the opening death pretty frequently, actually. But it's just, can you make sure that you just don't get got by hyper-aggression as you're heading into the last 30 seconds in the round? I think that's really what this is going to come down to.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's that hyper-aggression and that 20-second meta that has been so well established, due to the also known as utility consumption simulator meta that we are in right now. So both of these things factor into that hyper aggression in the last bit of that round. And so, you know, I don't think there's going to be any reason why that will change from this Texas Tech attack. But if Klimps has their way with it, it will definitely be delivering that early picks on that roam and stalling out this attack early. The C4 doing all but 10 HP to the lone canned coot, who's now prone, already up in construction, not wasting any time to get this aggression started. Now, we do have that player. Oh, the frag coming out from Cancoot will find CB. Now Cancoot will be supported by Espen on the flank. Watch Sus. Sprays on through the cache and will find one. Cancoot the next to be cut down, so keeping it even in a 4v4.
So interesting to note here that Grand Canyon just hasn't been reinforcing that connector well, so Texas Tech has just had free reign of use your Ash, use your Sledge, use your whatever various utility here to try and get it. And it looks like the Havana here is just trying to challenge out the Maestro, which will be a rather interesting sight as they are getting cash wall open here as we see Bait with the frag grenades coming in, maybe trying to, burn. Can't really burn ADSs anymore, but trying to get out the Jaeger here. And now it looks like the Habana is somewhat pinned in between the Maestro and the Jaeger, as they both know that somebody has to be there. And they kind of have an idea. It looks like Bait getting tagged a little bit from the window as Buck is going to try and push in here. Manages to get the manages to get two. Klimps getting Bait as well. 3v2 double kill. Trying to get a third. Buck getting the triple kill. And now we are in a 1v3 situation with an actually pretty serviceable C4 result there coming in hot. And it looks like the shotgun from the Mute coming in and scaring everyone off here. Trying to get up on that desk. And now we got the prone challenge. And let's see if the Mute will realize where that is. And not getting eyes, and that's a quad coming out from Buck in this attack round. Again, you had someone up in rafters. They walked in. They even more accurately got into sight. They managed to kill the person on rafters, and then even had enough time to swing around and get the person up on red stairs. It's this same incidental flaw we've been seeing throughout this cash defense, and it looks like that GCU has identified that and is just saying, screw it. We probably can't take this, so we just got to try and get the rounds as we can. We got to win gym bedroom, we got to win basement, and that's how we take our own map. And that looks to be the tactic they're taking at this point.
Well, this has gone pretty interesting. I mean, we just saw another CCTV and cache attack from Texas Tech that simply was walking on into sight and just picking off heads. And it worked for them, and that is not something you normally say with a simple just get on in there as fast as you can and you know, click heads for head strategy that they seem to be implementing right now. But GCU, it's something's not clicking, and they don't seem to have the response that they need to that push. And if you have a slight extended roam from a player like Klimps or Cash, who have proved that that roam is powerful and can get them numerous kills, that can leave your on-site anchors a little bit vulnerable, and I think that could be, you know, a consequence of these last few round results that we have seen. So, you know, they have to change something up here to stop Texas Tech from just walking on into site, because this site will play very similarly to what we just saw on CCTV and Cash, unless I'm mistaken, unless Texas Tech really try to change it up for no reason here. I mean, if it's not broken, why fix it? The mentality that Texas Tech will surely be bringing to the table here, because only on basement is their rush on in there and pick heads strategy not quite clicking. So this will work again if GCU don't have the response. But I talk about it every time I'm on a caster's desk. I talk about the adaptability of a team being one of the most important characteristics. This is what separates the good teams from the better teams, from the cream de la creme, the cream of the crop, the best teams. Because if you can come up with brilliant pivots, brilliant adaptations to what a team is throwing at you in the middle of a game and change your strategy up, that can be perfect. That can be exactly what you need to win the round. But GCU, they haven't found that yet, and they're going to need to search for it as we get into round number 11.
Yeah, so it looks like we got our entry here, and the Valcram spotted by the IQ on the outside, taken out here. Let's see if Cancoot and Klimps will clash again, as it seems to be a frequent thing, as Bait coming out, using the breach charge to get that castle barricade here. 2 minutes left, and we're just going to have some bonkers challenges here. And it looks like Klimps is going to be like in a 1v2 or 3 situation, just trying to buy time, because they definitely are not going to be able to get out of that room. There's no way I see Klimps leaving cash here, so it's all a matter of how much time can you waste and can you deal any damage, and that's really the kind of axis we're operating on here.
Yeah, and that is exactly what we're going to see here again in round number 11. Of course, this CCTV and cash extension slowing that quick push down, though. So far for GCU, I would say successful change. The question is, in a minute 30 remaining in this round, will they be able to keep this change going and solidify this round win? Klim's going to take hella damage there, and Pokey Spartan will finish off that kill. The Jaeger getting his feet caught out, forced to vault up onto the box, likely an accident, but he was forced to move, and that forced him to his 6-foot grave. And now, with that extension roughly dealt with, Kankoot full control of cash now, they will be looking to push that pressure over to construction and over to Master, establishing that 90-degree crossfire on the window. But CB has something to say about that, taking down Bait, but Buck will have the response. Kankoot is in the down but not out stage, but should be able to be picked up by Espen, who is nearby, as well as Pokey Spartan, who are both positioned in that ready resable position. But Buck straight up the main stairs, and CB straight to his grave. Buck looks for another, but Cash finds one first. Buck will swing, finds Sus. Cash finds Buck, though, and now it's going to be up to Cash in a 1 versus 2. Pokey Spartan and Kankoot now both pushing from this side. Cash with the triple kill will take down the one player, but Kankoot will win it out. And Texas Tech will find another round simply because Buck walked up the stairs and found 3 kills.
Yeah, this seems to be the consequential problem when there's an easy avenue of access. And notably, this isn't even like a hyper-aggressive push per se. It's you see the opportunity where there aren't really a lot of people. You take the one guy covering the side or the one person covering the side, and you just walk in. And that seems to be what's going on. Like we saw it in CCTV. You take the one person on balcony, then you walk right in and get 3 more frags. And that just seems to be the axis we're seeing Texas Tech work on. So that means that I guess the reason why, at least from what we can tell, the reason why Grand Canyon won the basement, which is exactly what they're going to here, Church Arsenal, is just because there are no easy avenues to get into the basement. You either have to walk down a set of stairs, open up a hatch that you're well aware of if someone falls down, drop down into an oil pit, or go inside a breachable, or go inside dirt, which you also generally have a pretty good idea if someone's coming down. There just happen to be no easy avenues to come in, so that there isn't that lag time in between when someone enters and when they have time to get frags. They have a little bit easier time just due to the nature of the basement sites organized of, okay, someone's here, we can identify that and cope with it, compared to someone's here, 3 people are dead, then they get refragged. And that's kind of the pattern we're seeing in the other 2 sites.
Well, I mean, regardless of exactly, what we've seen in these past few rounds, I mean, match point is now on the horizon. Texas Tech 6-5. They have the ability to take GCU's map, and if they do, it could very well be the nail in the coffin for this series. However, GCU have looked very strong tonight, stronger than I think most people expected them to show up here tonight. Cash and Klimps, I mean, what are they on tonight? Whether they've, stocked up a bunch of rogue energy or what. Cash has 16 kills right now. I mean, this man is popping off, and it is working in a big way for their team. Unfortunately, for GCU, the spreading of those kills, the coordination, it's not quite there. They're playing as individual players, not one 5-man unit. And when it comes down to the wire against a very strong team like Texas Tech, simple mistakes like that could cost you a map and could cost you a series. But it's not over yet. We're back to Church, the site that GCU was able to successfully defend. And so now the onus is on them to continue that pressure from the previous performance, as Buck gets pressured early on and is now beat within an inch of his life.
Yeah, let's not count out Buck here. Buck also notably on 17 kills here. Almost on par with Cash. So there's an interesting thing to note here is that Texas Tech is, while they're winning in the round count, they have net less kills than the side of GCU, which tells you really something interesting about how these attacks are turning out. Is the margin of success is significantly narrower for Texas Tech when on their attacker side than when Grand Canyon did their attacker side. And I think that's a really interesting note that we'll see moving into the second map here is where is that margin and how are people able to interact with that in a significantly more meaningful fashion. And it seems like, you saw a little bit of the toes here coming out from Kankoot, but it's whether or not Grand Canyon can convert that margin of victory into more round successes, as we got one down, Buck getting down and getting killed, as we do see Manda also down, likely will not be able to be retrieved because it is kind of in the middle of the large walkway there.
But Cash on the flank, the same flank as last time, but this time it's Pokey Spartan very aware of the potential of that flank and shuts Cash down. That's a problem for GCU because they're losing one of their big performers on this defensive half. They still have Klimps on the board, but of course Mend is, like you said, a nearly impossible resable position, as now Bait will cook a nade, and this could be very problematic, and it will be. It will finish off Mend and do so much damage to Sus 5 HP. CB will have the retaliating, though. He will find the one player, and now keeping this even in a 3v3 as the IQ just walks on in, and Cancun finds the head of CB. Looks for one, and finds them all! Texas Tech will win it in round 12 on the shoulders of Cancun.
This is definitely not like what we saw before in terms of the walking right in, but it's one of those things they were able to get in and then frag them out. And I think that's going to be the really key factor as we move into the second map, because this was a 7-5 line, right?
Yeah.
Like, this was a really impressive line coming out from GCU, and you think that the line may have been gone, at least from what we saw in the first half, that 7-5 going the other way in terms of 7 for GCU and then 7 for Tech, or 5 for Texas Tech. So it's just one of those things. Where is your margin of victory, and how can you make that important? Because as we look at this scoreline here, at least what we saw in the flash, total number of kills, I think it was by at least 5 or 6, at least for my quick bad math, favoring the side of GCU. And yet we saw a 7-5 scoreline. And I think that's really, really impactful in terms of how these rounds are defended and what we'll end up with. And we're just going to be taking us casters so that everyone can stew on what we just saw. Us casters and all the other people are just going to be taking a short 5-minute break here. And when we get back, we're going to be getting into the second map, which is Cafe. See y'all then.
I'm gonna do my thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back and thank you for sticking with us here. What we just witnessed was an interesting sight to say the least. It was Clubhouse, GCU's map pick going in the favor of Texas Tech. They took it 7-5 and it could have gone either way. It looked like GCU really had the ability to take that one, but it just slipped through their fingers. They let it just slip away, and Texas Tech, the storming on into sight and just clicking heads, was just too much for GCU to counter. Once again, my name is Jays Wills, and I am joined by Coin Man, and we are here to bring you to map number 2, to Cafe. Coin Man, what do you think we're going to see going into Cafe?
What I'm going to see here, I'm really curious about the defensive side, at least in terms of many of the sites of Cafe, against what we saw in Clubhouse. They're significantly harder to access. It's really hard for you to kind of just walk in because all of them is like, if you're upstairs, well, if you have any really reasonable defense or like anyway, or really intel gathering, you kind of know where everybody is at all times just because of how relatively confined Cafe is on that top floor. Same thing if you're downstairs. If you have someone on the second floor, you generally are going to know where that person is, especially if you have at least 1 or 2 people roaming up there. And if they come into bakery, you also kind of generally know where that is just because Cafe is an inherently smaller map closer to your sites than Clubhouse. And I think a lot of that is going to be hinged upon is how easily can Texas Tech get into sight, or at least in terms of traditional avenues of attack. And can Grand Canyon then not get like one really 5-1 or 6-0 on their defensive half? Because I think that they have the attacker side skill to be able to get 4-2s and 5-1s on the attacker side based on what we saw. It's just, can they not really lose the defensive half in a bad way is really how I see it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, but I also think, if you're GCU, looking at how that previous map played out, this can be very concerning because not only is this Texas Tech's map pick, so you expect them to be strong on it, regardless of the previous map, but just in the way that Clubhouse, a generally strat-focused map in my opinion, the way that played out, the way it was simply a frag fest, it was the gunners of Texas Tech who just, threw caution into the wind, stormed into sight, and just clicked on heads. I mean, that strategy works on Cafe very well. This is a gunner-favored map. Not as much as Coastline, the most aggressive map we have in the map pool right now, but Cafe, is somewhere in that space between a map like Clubhouse and between Coastline. Whether it leans one way or the other, it really depends on the night, and it depends on the team that we have in front of us, but we have an aggressive team in front of us. We've got Texas Tech, a team that just like to storm on into sight and just mow on down the defenders. And they will be starting on attack here. And so I think, they will be strong on defense as well. But I think that this first half, like you mentioned, is going to be key for GCU to get this defense under their belt. They had 5 minutes. They could think about it. They can talk it over with their team. Maybe bring barbed wire. Maybe bring a trap operator. Maybe bring a Mira, but banned off the table, unfortunately for them. But all of this are options they have to stall out this aggression, and that is going to be their ultimate focus on Cafe.
Yeah, just as a note here, we're going to go, just a quick note in our bans. We have Thatcher, which is the perennial ban these ways. The secondary ban, though, coming out from Texas Tech was Montaigne, interestingly enough, for their attacker side. And then they chose Wamai as their defender side, and then Mira as the last ban. Importantly here, it looks like we're going to be seeing a Ying, so as we were talking about, they'll walk in and just kind of do the thing meta, or at least what they're trying to develop as their attacker strat, at least against GCU. That's just kind of what they're skewing towards, and all they got is a Jaeger, which doesn't instantly catch everything. So Yang is suddenly a lot more effective when you don't have both Jaeger and Wamai, because you can just huck 3 of them, and 2 of them are going to go off.
Yeah, that is a great observation, and of course it's not as aggressive as the Amaru pick we saw teased for a moment, but it is an aggressive play, and that could be, simply what we could see is a full rush onto dumping your smokes and your candelas all over the place and just going for picks. And I do think Texas Tech are going to play a little bit more disciplined than that, but they could very well do exactly that because it is within their skill set. They know they could do it, and it would definitely send a message here in round number 1, but only time will tell as the action phase is just about to get underway. But you do have a Malusi on the board. That was banned in map number 1, and because of that, the Wubwubs, the Banshees, whatever you want to call them, they are simply oppressive. It will shut down an aggressive push easily because not only does it give you an audio cue, but it slows down the attackers tremendously. But speaking of slowing down, the traditional top-down clear that you normally expect on a kitchen defense, or a kitchen attack rather, it's not going to come out from Texas Tech. An aggressive, direct bakery push is what's in store. But Cash will start it off for GCU on the correct foot here and will take out the IQ of Buck.
An interesting note here, especially if you have really good placement of these Banshees, you only got two charges to clear it, and there's 3 Banshees. Because the only person who can clear it, unless you get up there and melee it, especially if you place it correctly, is going to be a really hard thing to do. As we see now, the Candela's coming out here, as they're going to try and push here, as they did manage to get the Banshee with the 1 Ash, and they are just going to do the thing we're talking about. Push in sight and do the thing as they get downed, and not Flash coming in from the Bandit. We have 2 people over here in the kitchen side here, seeing the little arms and gun of one person pushing up into there. Cash getting the rear flank coming in and getting one, Pokespar and getting another, and Espen managing to get Klimps. And now suddenly we're in a 2v4. Hey, look, they're evolving.
They are indeed, and now it's going to be up to Espen and Cancu to make this one happen. There is some vertical play coming out from the defenders simply because the top-down clear did not happen from Texas Tech. They went for that direct take, and with the vertical control surrendered, now the defenders can use that to their own advantage here. So Cancoot, likely aware of a possible flank down Brown Stairs, actually swinging the wrong way, and Cash has a free kill on Espen as a result. Cancoot finds the trade, but he has to find 3 more. Ooh, the shot onto Mend. That's going to be another picked up for Cancoot. 2 kills so far on the round, but needs to find double that. Needs to find Sus and CB. 50 seconds is ample time to work with, not to mention the pings coming out. The information is there. They do know where some of these defenders are positioned, so it is possible, albeit unlikely, for Cancu to take this round.
Note here where the diffuser's in a really difficult place here. Manages to tag the bandit a little bit, but definitely being at low health. And then C4. Oh, pre-play C4. Neat. Yeah, pre-play C4 on the wall. Just getting. Well, I guess they did throw it. Ignore me. Good throw on the C4 then.
Yeah, it was a good round from GCU. They were aware of that push, that aggression. Really, it worked out for them. Somehow they figured out a way to stop it. I will definitely attribute that to some good on-site anchor play from those anchors. Not to mention some good placement, good use of that utility, specifically the Wubwubs, those Banshees from the Malusi. But one thing I noted there, the Ying did go for that aggressive play that we talked about, that you called out in the middle of that round, and we saw the Candelas come in, the smokes come in, but it was an individual lone attack trying to get in there on their own, and without the double swing, without the trades coming out from the attackers, the so-called aggression, the possible, aggressive site take was shut down before it started. You can't execute that push if you're only going to commit one body to it. If you're going to go for that rush, you have to go for it. And if you don't, if you only dip your toe in the water and not jumping on straight on in, that will penalize you in a big way, and it did penalize Texas Tech on that round, delivering GCU a crispy, nice little round win there. So headed into round number 2, we will be moving upstairs 2 floors to bar and cocktail. So we will see how this defense is going to go down. This is a harder site to get an aggressive rush going without an Amaru for that matter. But right now, Texas Tech are going to need to, balance their aggressive strategy with a little bit of strategy on their own, pulling out those strats that they have in that deep strat book. I mean, I know they can do it. The question is, will they choose to bring that out here instead of those simple aggressive maneuvers?
Yeah, there's also a keynote here and a really cheeky, it looks like just like a blind spray into where they normally run out on that side. But one of the key things I'm going to mention here is they can't break a Malusi without walking up on it. The attacker side. Oh, And I missed it. Ash does have 3 charges as a point aside here, so they are able to get all of the Malusis. But at least currently, ooh, wow, that was a good C4. It looks like they threw it up onto the hatch as you were hearing the placement sound, and that Zofia now got a big hit. But back to what I was saying is they can't clear Malusis without walking up on him. That's going to be a really big portion about how this attacker side is flavored.
I mean, it definitely will. And you know, we talk about Cafe, and you can never mention bar and cocktail site without mentioning the pixel position. However, because of these recent changes with Wamai no longer having a deployable shield and Jaeger, you know, those ADSs being changed up slightly, the pixel position is going to become, in my opinion, a thing of the past unless you opt to play Warden and put him in this very corner, because it is a much tougher position to hold without that utility and without the, you know, plethora of deployable shields that are typically available to most defensive lineups on this site. So that is going to allow Texas Tech to have full piano control very early on, and that is going to start to establish the crossfire they will need to get that new Balk piano crossfire established onto that bar door to eventually get that bar plant down. But Klimps, playing here on the planks in Whitehall, will be contesting that and slowing that down, as with all 10 members still on the board, we work our way under a minute to go.
Yeah, with about a minute left here, we see that the Mute's kind of stuck. Mute can't move, and you just got to try and hold and stay there in the bathroom with your good old Mossberg handy. You're just trying to challenge everyone as best you can, as you do hear the second Selma going off. Looks like opening the rotation all the way, but it looks like we're just going to have to push. You got 45 seconds. People are just going to have to commit. The Zofia Grismont's coming out, and you just they're all waiting. They're waiting for the drop. And there's just going to be a whole lot of bullets coming out at once. I don't know exactly when they're going to choose to execute here. But, oh boy, when they do, a whole lot of things are going to happen at once. They have the idea. They see the head of the Malusi. Malusi gotten by Buck. It looks like we got tags on the second here. Buck getting killed here by CB. Now we're getting the plant down behind Barbie because we got nobody in there. It looks like Mute's going to try and get in there and throw a C4. Good C4. Tags the planter. 15 seconds left. Nobody's really going to be able to get to it in time. Espen getting Klimps as well. Well, now we're in a 3v3. You just got to try and frag it out here. The Mute not getting there. CB getting the double kill here. Cancoot getting sus, at least to try and clean it up. It looks like they have it here. The Nomad getting the double kill. And now we're just kind of walking around and challenging. And there just wasn't enough time because the Valkyrie was waiting downstairs.
Wow, that was a round, to say the least. It really could have gone either way. The execute definitely waited to the last possible moment, but with the time on the side of the defense, as always, round number 2 going in the favor of GCU once again. And that simply was the you know, a situation where Texas Tech, you know, in uncharacteristic fashion for their attacks, got a bit stuck. They got a bit stalled out over in Cigar, Nubalk, and Piano with how they wanted to actually get the pressure going, because with the full, you know, stack of defenders playing in Cocktail and in the White Hall, you know, you don't have much, you know, foothold on that site. You're not going to play vertical from below. Then those Cocktail players can sit there forever. Those White Hall players never have to leave, and so it can be impossible to force them all out and actually get that plant down. And surprisingly, Texas Tech actually struggled with that in what I said earlier, uncharacteristic fashion for this aggressive play style we've seen from them so far.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we are. It's like, can you slow down the aggression? That's the game we're playing, and that's kind of what I said is, can GCU slow down the aggression enough so that they can then react to things that are going on? Because at least as a team, their pivoting seems to be a little bit slow. But if they're given that time to react, their pivot is incredibly well placed and very well executed, and that's what we saw there. Now, important to note that going down to the second floor here, in terms of reading and dining, they chose explicitly to not have a Malusi in favor of a castle, and we'll see exactly how that goes. This site is a little bit harder to access because you do have to care about both above and below. Rough, not equal amount, but shotgunning from below is like an actual thing that we might see, at least, not necessarily shotguns, but at least impacts from below coming in from bait here. So it'll be really interesting to see how exactly they hold the top floor and try to slow them down without the use of the Banshees here.
Yeah, we are going to see exactly how this tertiary bomb site hold is going to go down. And what is, of course, extremely characteristic of this site is that vertical hold. You'll often have 2, 3, even 4 defenders playing on that top floor, staving off the vertical aggression from the attacking squad, hoping to hold down reading room control as long as humanly possible. It's not easy, but with a very coordinated defensive stack, you can definitely make this one happen. It's not out of the question, as Buck on the Ash roll once again will be working his way down red stairs rather, just a little bit, and possibly they could be teasing more of a direct execute onto Fireplace. But with all that soft wall destruction put out towards the red hall, towards reading room, it is a very tough thing to do, is to get a Fireplace execute going. CanCoot all the way up here, already working vertical play despite the cocktail presence from the defenders, as Buck walks right in and will find his double kill on the round. CB will finally take out the aggressive Ash player, but CanCoot walks straight up into Cocktail and finds Klimps. That's going to be the pick for the IQ, and the vertical control surrendered with Mend and CB left alone on site to contend against 4. Mend finds 1 though. CanCoot, the next player to be cut down with that beautiful headshot from the UMP, so keeping this one a bit closer is Mend and CB.
Yeah, with a minute left, it's the problem we were saying. When you walk in, CB trying to bring it back, getting Espen here. It looks like on the vertical, we now got the, I believe it was an impact. Yeah, an impact thrown and getting that wall. Either that or a someone breacher. Not entirely sure which. As to, yeah, it would have been an impact because the ace is all the way off on the other side of the map here. Now with 45 seconds, it looks like they saw the feet. Wide swung out, manages to get the feet. Triple kill on CB. Let's see if CB can get the quad, shooting the headshot right onto the bomb site. Bomb chassis MVP, and it looks like we just got to challenge it out. Where's the diffuser? The diffuser's out in Narnia. So you got 30 seconds to try and challenge this mute here to try and get the diffuser back. And I think it would definitely behoove the mute to not challenge here. And,
well, he will challenge, and he, will get punished for it. Bait will find the shots on that Zofia, and really just Texas Tech, a strong round win. I mean, again, it was one of those that were a bit dicey, but the tertiary bomb site proving just a bit too tough for GCU to lock down indefinitely. They had the traction they needed. It came close, but it didn't get all the way there. They didn't quite get the hold that they needed. But what this means, Coinman, is that they can head back to Kitchen, a site that they held very, very strong last time we were here.
Yeah, this site in particular was almost too easy, it seemed, for them to hold. And some of that, I will say, hinged upon the style of attack that Texas Tech chose and how that didn't exactly pan out the way that they wanted to. And we do see the ace pivoting to the Maverick as Texas Tech makes the general assumption that, they're going to be kitchen service, so we can do things a little bit differently. Though the lack of a hard breacher is generally interesting because you like getting that bakery wall open, or at least the one that's directly in front of the bakery entrance. So that pivot to Maverick is definitely a rather interesting choice, considering Texas Tech has a general idea as to where Grand Canyon's going to end up.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well. And, we're going to have to see if Texas Tech have the necessary response for this decisive defense from GCU. I do suspect we will see something a bit more disciplined from them, possibly the top-down clear, that they are going to need to establish the vertical pressure and force out these anchors, because they did not do that in the previous round. It was a direct bakery take, and it was a take that did not work out whatsoever. So, the more disciplined strategic approach would be start in Cocktail, start in Piano, drone it out, get your entries in there, clear all the way down, and force your your defenders rather, to just nestle down on that first floor. And that is, the way you can establish the vertical pressure from mining and train, force the anchors out of those positions, and start getting some early picks.
Yeah, as we did see there, I think it may have been CB, not entirely sure. Just kind of checking a whole bunch of different windows on the top floor. You're getting some pew-pews out, trying to at least tag some people on their way closer to site, but somehow over 3 rounds, CB already has 7 kills, which is markedly ahead of basically anyone else across the scoreboard, which is kind of wild here. And now we're just going to see exactly how this pans out. We see CanCoot just jump in without droning and then gets got by Klimps, who happened to be on the top floor. So now we're just going to see exactly how this defense goes. It's a good way to stymie the heavy attack, because now the attacker side just doesn't know where anything is, especially when you have bandits, you have maestros, and a whole pile of other stuff, and Malusis now that are still easier to clear, I'd say, especially with 2 frag grenades and the 3 Ash charges. It's a little bit easier to do that. But it looks like we're going to see the Klimps here try and challenge that Ash who's just sitting right there on the other side of that wall.
Well, Canned tried to do the solo top-down clear, and that is an impossible feat. And, well, now being in their grave, that proved exactly that. And CB will find another bait, the next player of Texas Tech to find their graves. And now Buck, Espen, and Pokey Spartan are all that remains of this attack. But Buck will find one with the R4C. Klimps finding the dirt, and now it will be up to them to get this pressure mounting with a minute 15 to play in this round. Buck running around aggressively, just looking for any defender that they can, but nobody presenting themselves to the Ash quite yet, as Pokey Spartan now cooks this frag grenade, try to open up this wall, but maybe a spectator bug, maybe on his end, the wall has not been successfully opened. The Ash breaching round has solidified the wall, and it has now been fully opened, but CB, hiding underneath a broken fan, will now be positioned for potentially an aggressive, successful position now with 40 seconds left.
Yeah, we heard the second Ash charge going off here. It looks like CB is going to have to do the one-man party here because CB can't really move, and if CB gets the opportunity to rotate out, which they seemingly have, that's a really big thing. Suddenly not getting trapped in the corner here. And then good C4 there coming out to get the double kill here, and then Espen walking in again, getting 2 kills. It seems to be a thing, and then Buck getting another one onto Cash, and now we're suddenly into 2v1 with Sus being the last one here, trying to prevent the defuse. 13 seconds left. Nobody has the diffuser. Where is the diffuser? You can't. Okay, diffuser now has been picked up, and they're just gonna have to plant in the doorway here and see if they can challenge. And then we see the giant. It's not literally a solid with the outlet coming out. Not enough time. Okay, they got the kill instead, but again, they slowed them down enough where Texas Tech got frantic, and then they just didn't have the diffuser with 15 seconds left. You know.
Wow.
And this is kind of where Grand Canyon has to be, is get them into the frantic state, and that's where Texas Tech starts making mistakes.
That was an interesting round, to say the least. It was, well, myriad mistakes made by both teams there. I think, it wasn't a clean round, but at the end of the round, the cards fallen as they may. It was GCU who emerged victorious. They took Kitchen, but it was the 2v1 in those closing seconds, aided by aggressive play from Espen and Buck, that should have been won by Texas Tech. But like you said, they did not have the diffuser, and because the Alda has, I don't know another way to put it, all the bullets in the world, it really was just too much for the remaining attackers. They could not find the space to get a plant down, getting taken down by that brilliant wall bang from the Maestro prevented, the final attacker from feeling it appropriate to go for that plant. Had it been a 2v1 and they played it a little bit safer and got the plant down right away, I mean, they had ample time to do it. They had 5 seconds to do it after they picked up the diffuser. It would have been enough to get the plant on the ground and have your other attacker cover to not let the Maestro do exactly what he did in that round. But because of that little mistake, it was GCU, it was the Alda in the hands of the Maestro who decisively took that round in those closing seconds, delivering the final 2 kills.
Also credit, there was something that you may not have seen on that right-hand side wall where you normally would have had to plant. There was a Maestro camp, so everyone was getting pinged. The Maestro knew exactly where everyone was, so if it was just a 1v1, I guess in retrospect, now that we're talking about it, you're forced to challenge because you'll legitimately die trying to plant, because I believe the Maverick was at about 50 health. So during the plant timer, the Maverick would have literally just died to the camera. So the Maverick was forced to challenge, and that's kind of the situation you want to be in. And on the top floor, let's see if we can hold that. And a Goyo! We finally see a Goyo, and we get all the shields coming in as Buck takes out Klimps on the first floor. Caught unawares by a moderately, I guess not caught unawares, they got a 50, they traded 50 health for a life there, so definitely saw and then missed the headshot. But as long as Klimps got all of the ADSs down, I'd say that Klimps did their job. Didn't really waste enough time, but that doesn't really seem to be the issue here in these rounds, because even if GCU is ahead, they still make it markedly close because they allow Texas Tech to walk into sight. So you're just trying to delay as long as possible. So as long as you can do that, I don't think it really matters how many people are left on GCU's side.
Well, Texas Tech, they have the advantage, at least the man advantage, but like you said, the time is against Texas Tech. They were not able to get this push going in time last time we were on Bar and Cocktail, so they're going to have to make a change here. They've already forced out the Pixel Vulcan shield, so now they have full control of Piano. Bait may be looking to come from below, or that's going to be Buck, actually, assisted by the drone work from Bait. Now, if Buck can do this right, if he can get in reading room, this is going to be the adaptation that is perfect. That is exactly what Texas Tech needs. Force out those Cocktail anchors, get full control of Cocktail from below, and that can enable you to do this. But Buck, not going to do that. Instead, opting to pressure on this White Stairs window and force out these potential Planks players and White Hall players who are going to stave off the attacking push from that White Hall and into that bathroom. But look, it's sus. Hiding in the bathroom as well could be challenging on a Cancoot here, but Cancoot now repositioning towards the freezer side. Cash is a player to worry about, but Sus gets taken down. Not sure if that was a nade or some bullets, but Cancoot will deliver the fatal blow nonetheless. And now a 5v3 with Cancoot looking for more. The hard pings go out, and he will find it with the G8. Jop jumps into the rotate, looks for more. Mend on the swing, but denied the triple kill from Cancoot. It's going to be up to Cash, who is below, but Buck will hunt the frag and will find the frag. And Texas Tech will successfully win the attack on Bar and Cocktail.
I think much of that could be attributed to a lot of this is a time game. We noticed that Texas Tech gets really flustered when there isn't a lot of time left and they aren't where they want to be. So there just wasn't enough time to force that particular situation. With Klimps getting killed early, there just wasn't enough time on that axis to let the roamers do their job. So then suddenly, Texas Tech had a lot more time to be able to close in and just make that space optimal. As we saw the Ash and Buck. That's confusing. I'll just refer to them by name. Buck watching the White Stairs, and that's how Sus got down, because there was someone watching White Stairs on Rappel, or at least standing on the box outside over on that balcony. And that's kind of where we have to be careful about and kind of operate on these axes, is how much time can GCU waste in a meaningful fashion? And that seems to be exactly what has been mattering here on these defenses as we head into the last round on this defensive half.
Yeah, now with, like you said, the last round in our sights of this first half, you have to look at the scoreline and consider the possible implications of this round going either way, going into our second split. And Cafe is one of those maps that really changes the way it plays on a night-by-night basis. Sometimes it's, pretty even between the attackers and the defenders, 3-3, 4-2. That's kind of a normal approach. But often, at the collegiate level, we will actually see Cafe go super defensive. I've seen it go 5-1. I've seen it go 6-0, but those ones aren't usually as close. But 5-1, I've seen it go 5-1, and then the other team bring it back with a 5-1 performance of their own. So regardless of what happens here with Klimps, the run out, Cancoot taken down early, that's going to be a big deal as we get into round number 6. But regardless of what happens here, 3-3 or 4-2, going into Texas Tech's defensive half on their map pick, I think 2 rounds is enough to be in a good position going into the second split.
Yeah, so importantly here, Buck again just managing to get the early kill here. But I think the large portion of the story is who gets the opening frag. Is it Klimps or Bancoot? Because they seem to be interacting a whole bunch. Where IQ seems to be the axis as we get people jumping in. Klimps getting the double. I'm not entirely sure onto whom at this point, but it looks like they're getting the quick plant down and the pings are going out here. And C4 from below comes in and gets the down 2v4, and then now suddenly we're in a 1v4. It looks like they tried the quick push, but again, they were prepared. They had enough time to react in GCU, and they just cleaned it up. So that's one of those things. How fast can you, and we might see this if we end up going to a map 3, where how fast is the execute, and does GCU have enough time to react? Because once GCU has enough time to react, as you see here, they just mop the floor, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and just want to take note that closing kill coming out from the Vigil, well, that's the identical situation we saw last night in a different collegiate league, where it was that kill that ended up breaking a monitor of one of the University of Illinois at Chicago's players. He then smashed his desk after getting run out on. His monitor hits the floor, it breaks, and then he has to play with a half of a monitor for the rest of the round. So just wanted to take note of that because I thought it was a comical ending to our first half with, of course, the Ashe, the remaining player left alive. But something that we should take note of is that round played out nothing like it had the previous one. It was Texas Tech all of a sudden decided to just throw bodies at the site immediately in that round. We saw Bait on the Ying throw in Candelas once again and go for something crazy aggressive, but GCU, knowing to expect aggression from Texas Tech, they were well aware of it and they shut it down. And then they shut down every other body that Texas Tech just piled on into that site, and it was all in that 1v4, the nearly impossible situation at the end of the round. But we're on our second half, and our focus will now turn to the Texas Tech defense because they are, of course, down 2 rounds, and now they have the responsibility to really go on a tear here, find these defensive round wins, and stave off this aggressive push that we could expect from GCU.
We saw, I don't necessarily know if it's an aggressive push. They definitely, at least from what I took notes on, they had a habit of pushing about in the minute 15 mark. And that's, or at least starting to like actively encroach on site at around that time, which gave them enough flexibility to move around. But there's a key point there that because of Texas Tech's aggression, at least in terms of their roam, almost always, as I saw, the kill differential at the end of the round, even or at the end of the map, even though they lost, was like +6 on the favor of GCU. So that over-aggression was something that GCU was at least somewhat prepared for and was able to act upon that. So when they got to that minute 15 on site, they just had a 2-person man advantage most of the time. So we have to see if that is a situation we see here, or if we end up on a more equitable 5-on-5 and a bonkers C4 getting thrown out by the Malusi, I believe. Yeah, the Malusi C4 through New Hatch manages to get CB in the top fragger, and losing that top fragger is going to be huge.
It is going to be big in this round, and now already this one going in the favor of Texas Tech, and Canned Coot on this ridiculously aggressive play. He's going to get sussed out by these drones as he's forced to put some bullets down the line. No frag coming out his direction just yet, because all of these attackers are still on the roof. A minute 40 remaining. This is too late to be getting into the site. You need to be boots on the ground with 2 minutes to go. Otherwise, this push is likely not going to happen because piano control takes so long to achieve. And Canned Coot is aggressively playing this piano position, refusing to back off. And we're looking at the clock here, and the time is just vanishing before GCU's eyes. They are going to need to take out Canned Coot or completely change this attacking pattern because it will not work if you can't get this player out of piano. Cash will find one, though. That's going to be Buck to fall as Canned Coot now forced to play aggressive. The crossfire will result in Cash finding the headshot on him. Now a 3 versus 4 in the favor of GCU once again. The Jaeger of Bait not wasting time to get aggressive, but he will be wasting time off the clock. Exactly what they need to do as the Selma charges go on this bathroom wall, forcing the Jaeger to rotate away.
Yeah, as Jaeger now rotates out to where those drywall sheets are, it looks like Espen is going to be playing right behind B-Bomb, at least behind the desk, which I believe you can at least shoot through that top pane of. So we got 30 seconds left here. Now we just got to get the push in, slightly favoring, and Espen gets down by Mend here. 4 versus 2 here, getting this really good push here as we see one in the bathroom, narrowly missing Bait. Just let's see who wins the crouch fight. And then Zofia wins the crouch fight here. Now we're in a 1v4, 15 seconds left here. The last one's all the way on the stairs. So it looks like we got the plant going down, but pings all across site here, probably from a well-placed Maestro cam here. Now they know exactly where Pokey Spartan is, and Cash getting the triple light off of that. And good round on them, and just cleaning it up, executing the push well, and doing it within a good span of 45 seconds. A good methodical push to clean out the defense.
Okay, so 5-2 now. This is very different than 4-2. Now it's a 3-round deficit, and on Texas Tech's defense, this could be problematic for them unless they change something up. If they go back to the same site again in a row, which would not be what I want to see from them. I would love to see them head to Kitchen. It's a viable site, and you don't risk making the same mistake twice. This could get pretty risky for them, especially with so much on the line here. It could very well go to map 3 if they're not careful. And just remind everybody exactly what we are playing for tonight. The winner of the Open League Grand Finals will take home a $450 cash prize and 5 Corsair K68 RGB keyboards. The runner-up, they will receive some prize money as well, $300 to their name, in addition to some HS50 Pro Stereo gaming headsets gifted by Corsair as well. So we definitely have some prizes on the line. Both teams will get something, but they're going to be looking to really secure that top prize, not to mention the immense amount of bragging rights that can come from an open league victory, especially if you play in those relegation matches, potentially work your way up to the Invite League. But we're going to have to see that. We're going to have to see how the rest of this map plays out. But the story of this map right now is GCU taking a 5-2 lead, a 3-round margin on a map we expected Texas Tech to shine on.
Yeah, also important to note here, the reason why it seems like GCU has been winning is that they are prepared for when people push them in terms of the axis of being pushed by a roamer, more accurately. So when they're being pushed as attacker, they're more prepared for stuff to come in terms of sudden actions, because almost all the kills we've been seeing, or at least the initial kills, so the reason why we saw it become a 4 versus 3 is people becoming slightly aggressive and showing themselves and not just playing the passive anchor position, which makes Grand Canyon, or forces Grand Canyon to make more mistakes before Texas Tech does, at least in these particular positions. The more you push out, the more the Texas Tech mistakes matter, and the more you stay in on anchor, depending on the site, as a caveat, the more the Grand Canyon mistakes matter. Also, these faster timers, not getting anybody, and seeing nobody actually repelling out that side. So now they know exactly where it is, and Klimp's going in to pursue and try and challenge, but it looks like it's only a one-man just attempt to scare our good friend Cancute off, as the great challenge of this, I'd say, whole match here being Klimp's versus Cancute for the opening frags.
Yeah, well, Cancute will still go on this roam, and the very aggressive run out from Buck will get punished by Klimps. So Klimps will secure the opening frag. Like you mentioned, the battle between those who can get those opening picks. It will be Klimps emerging victorious in round number 8. But, they still have not a lot of time to work with. You still have to get this clear going. But last round, they had no trouble waiting until the last possible second on the clock to get the push going. And the aggression from Texas Tech, the aggressive positioning rather, was what, gave them, forced GCU to deliver that final, last round push. But right now, the aggression, rather than simply aggressive positioning, hasn't worked out so well from for Texas Tech here. Klimps will find one, and that will be answered back by Espen. So keeping it only in the one-man disadvantage for the side of Texas Tech. Cash now looking for somebody from the skylight, but it's unlikely that anybody will challenge that position. Espen remains tucked away safely, as does Cancute, and Bait will still be hiding in the bathroom. The aggressive drop-in from Cash, Espen will punish before falling away into reading room. Now Klimps, 5 HP to their name, will be looking for some traction to push up on in, but Bait will be aware of this freezer push, gets the double swing, and finds one onto Mend. Now works their way around the pistol shots onto Klimps. The double kill on the round, looks for the triple, and will find it. Sus gets cut down after finding one, and Texas Tech have found the response they needed on Bar and Cocktail to keep our scoreline close at 3-5.
Texas Tech did the thing they needed to do, was just not get hyper aggressive with too many people. They saw, okay, the Malusi run out didn't work, so they held it back and just kept people closer to sight than what they had been doing before. And I think that's just kind of how they get it, is they just need to not overextend themselves, and that's where they fell apart. On map 1 on Clubhouse, we saw them overextend themselves too much, and then they got heavily punished for it. And now they see that, okay, we can't really overextend, because they know GCU just knows how to punish that properly, and they're slowly pivoting their defense to be significantly less aggressive, because they, as we've seen, just really can't win if they take those aggressive stances on defense, they being Texas Tech.
Of course. And we are going to see, how this continues to unfold. We're going to be moving towards kitchen, so we're not going to be going to our tertiary bomb site, pulling anything sneaky here on the side of this Texas Tech defense. We will be heading all the way downstairs. And when we saw this on the first half, when we saw GCU opt for the kitchen play, Texas Tech did not go for your traditional top-down clear. It was a direct bakery take, sending it straight on in and getting the wall open as soon as possible. Now, that ended up not working well for them at all, losing both rounds on this site, if I recall correctly. But the top-down clear is so important. It simply is the way to take this site. When you don't do it, you risk so many unexpected things happening in regards to vertical play, in regards to your flank, and it can be such a risky maneuver to do that. And of course, bakery isn't the easiest position to flank, but you don't have to simply flank to be an effective roamer or an effective offsite player. You know, Espen playing there in bakery going to get punished by Sus, but Bait, once again, so much aggression, and Find will one onto Mend there. Excuse me, they're butchering my sentence there, but Bait will capitalize after the, drones being there, but Mend caught unaware, busy meleeing some barbed wire, so Bait will fall away with full HP.
Important to note here that the one kill, or the person who died on the side of Texas Tech, now means that all Maestro cams are locked, and Buck's getting a good hit from somebody as Clips manages to rotate out as Jaeger gets down and killed by Sus. We see a C4 going out, probably going to get the Zofia. Yep, Zofia dead, and probably any bullet would have as well. Zofia was so low. Now we're in a 3v3 situation here with Canned Coot getting hit a lot here, managing to finish up Cash. But the Maestro cams are kind of locked, so if we can somehow pivot back and get these kills back with Sus being low, and we just really got to see is how well can GCU pivot in this particular situation to leverage the fact that the Maestro got killed early.
Yeah, now, without those evil eyes, it could be tougher to stave off that plant, but Sus will continue this pressure onto Texas Tech and will find the feet of Canned Coot and will take him down. So, a minute 10 to go here. It's good amount of time to work with, but the utility is lacking from the side of this attack. You do have 2 exothermic charges, but you have no way of getting the Kaid Electro Claws off the wall. You have almost no drone utility, only one utility, one drone to Sus's name, and so it's going to be a very challenging push because the clock is constantly working against GCU. Knowing that this wall is not electrified, that's where the exothermic charge will go down. But it's a very one-directional push now that this breach has been opened, and Buck is working a little bit of a flank. He does not know exactly where these players are, but he can assume they're just outside small, as now we'll get one player creeping on up. Oh, the timing of that change. Buck not gonna look at the right time as Pokey Spartan finds the shot onto CB, and there's another one. He finds Sus, and that will be enough for Texas Tech to take round number 9 and continue to mount this comeback.
I think that particular push would have been a little bit closer if not for that very clean one tap. So I think that was just a really close round that Texas Tech just had the slight advantage on, of being able to be anchored down and then properly, I guess, so you could then say almost on the side of CB, just slightly overextending on their behalf because they couldn't exactly get eyes on that little bit of Kaid that could then see them and get the headshot. So I think this all comes down to whether or not they can take this tertiary site. If GCU can take this tertiary site, then I think, because that would force them to go back upstairs, which again is a site that GCU has won. That's really what you gotta do. You just gotta win the next 2, and I think that's really how they get it. Because as soon as they get the chance to go back downstairs again, that's where it gets a lot more hairy, because we haven't really seen any proof that GCU can take that. Like, they can get real close. We don't know if they can actually win that site.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And, we are going to be moving over to the tertiary bomb site, of course, and this one did not go in the favor of GCU on their own defensive half, and so it is a tough site to defend, and so Texas Tech certainly will have their work cut out for them in this particular round. They're going to have to really be able to secure this top-down hold a bit better than GCU were able to do on the first half. Though how much utility they devote to the top floor varies team to team. Sometimes you will extend all the way into piano, even playing one of your operators in the pixel position. But it seems that will not be the decision from Texas Tech right now, bringing no deployable shields to their utility-focused team right now, so they will not be playing that position, and maybe will be focused on just holding the cocktail side. We don't have a castle, so it's going to be a little bit of different hold to what GCU brought to the table, but it is going to be a top-down hold nonetheless.
See here where it looks like where you still haven't hit 2 minutes yet, but it looks like they're actually going to get inside the building at the start of 2 minutes, which is really good. And it looks like we do manage to get a Jackal scan off on the Valkyrie. So now they know that there's at least one person here, and they see the legs. And that was with a hollow too. So Kankoot getting killed first. So it looks like our first kills of each round is either Kankoot or Klimps, depending on what day it is. And Cash nearly eating it too, especially for challenging Kankoot. But that is definitely a major kill because that conceded that particular portion of site, or the top floor, to GCU.
And we are going to have to see this clear go down, but Buck is going to look to delay it as much as possible, getting aggressive, swinging, but missing the shots by just a millimeter here, and he will get punished for his over-aggression. Sus, once again, is the player in this map who has been punishing that over-aggression from Texas Tech on their defense. So now, seriously lacking the manpower here is Texas Tech. They are going to have to climb quite a mountain here with this vertical control completely in the hands of GCU. Espen is in a very dangerous position, but with the M590, he's looking to get some hope going. But Klimps from behind hits the back of Espen's head as Mend will find bait as well. It's going to be all up to the Jaeger, well off site. Going to need to find 5, the ace clutch, or delay 55 seconds, but neither of these things are quite likely. He'll find 1, but the flank from Red Stairs is right behind him, and Mend will deliver the kill. GCU will take round number 10 and will take us to match point.
That was incredibly decisive. Like, looking at it, that was, I don't know, I guess it's again punishing that overextension. They kind of just go for it, or at least I would say more accurately, Texas Tech says, oh, we think we can overextend, immediately get punished and then lose the round in great fashion. That's kind of what we've been seeing here, is when they commit to the multiple person overextend, that's just kind of where it ends up. They just end up losing the round because GCU knows how to do that. So I think we're not wholly unlikely to end up on a third map here, and these teams swapping the maps they chose against the maps that they won.
Yeah, and if GCU were to take this would be huge. It would be a brilliant response to the way that they had, that they underperformed on map number 1 with their own map pick obviously going in the hands of Texas Tech. And to take Texas Tech's map pick, a map pick that we predicted coming into this one was going to be gunner favored, gunner focused, and therefore in the favor of Texas Tech. But that is not what we're seeing. GCU have done a brilliant job punishing the extreme defensive aggression from Texas Tech. They were aware of a potential attack, very aggressive attack. They shut that down. They're aware of runouts and these aggressive swings from Texas Tech, and they are just allowing Texas Tech defenders to walk into their open and loving arms. I mean, they're just mowing them down as they are over-aggressing. That's exactly what happened on the last round with the Malusi challenging in the pixel spot, just walking straight into Piano and walking into 2 attackers. I mean, that is simply not a smart decision. No matter how big of a gun you are letting down your team if you are going to just swing willy-nilly like that, knowing how dangerous it could be. And that over-aggression has cost Texas Tech multiple rounds on this defense. And if this goes, to the third map, all bets are off at that point, because GCU have learned how to counter Texas Tech, and Texas Tech have also learned what can beat GCU. So if they let it go to Villa, I think this could be problematic for Texas Tech, and this could be the chance that GCU needs to win this one. But our focus will remain on round number 11. It is match point, but it is Bar and Cocktail, the site that Texas Tech have been able to defend successfully. One time, the shots from below. That's Kankoot on the dock to take out Klimps. Like you said, the warring entry fraggers, the early picks. This time it's Kankoot who comes out on top.
We do see the Ying coming in here, so looks like they're gonna at least be attempting a push like that. And holy cow, good shot coming out from Buck, who seemed to be sitting on bomb chassis, and then a thrown out C4, not getting anyone. But what I was gonna mention here is that if Grand Canyon manages to win this round, where we get a great double kill coming out from Buck, and it seems like they are unlikely to win this round. Doesn't mean they can't. Statement still stands, unlikely. And they would be the one to get to choose which side they want to start on, because that is dictated by map or round differential. So it looks like Sus here is just going to take the minute and a half as a pseudo timeout. And I think that's a really great thing. See, also, right? So, like, this is actually a really good opportunity for them to take the pseudo timeout to talk for like a minute and a half and figure out what they actually want to do. Because they're like, okay, we got to win this last round. It's going to be in a particularly unfavorable position for at least relative to them, because they're going to have to go back down to basement or the or bakery, which they haven't won yet. And they really just got to try and figure out exactly how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see Sus, or no, actually, I'm sorry. I thought Sus may have swung there, but it was Cancun who just did a little bit of a TK action there. But it's all going to come down to the kitchen defense. And this is our time where we can talk exactly what went wrong with that push from GCU last time. And I simply think, you know, whether we want to get into the minutia of the bakery push and exactly what went wrong there, I think the big, macro strategy decision, that was the problem, was not going for the top-down clear. I don't know why these teams are not deciding to do this. Maybe they don't have a good, efficient clear and they're worried it's going to take too long. A valid concern, I'll give them credit for that. But you need to clear out roamers. You need to, get those picks as you're coming down from above, and you just cannot get a straight bakery take and expect it to work with a more than, a coin flip's worth success, because it is tough to get that bakery push going because you're not forcing out the anchors. You are not playing vertically, and therefore the anchors can go anywhere they want on site. They can be in freezer, Java, behind service. They can be anywhere on that site, and that can be seriously detrimental to the attackers when they start pushing in, because they have to check every angle, not just the ones that aren't covered by the vertical play.
Yeah, as now we move into the site that we assume, so Kitchen Bakery, we got a Jaeger, Malusi, Maestro, Kai, Doc. On the defender side, on the attacker side, we don't really see anything particularly changing. Looking at the scorecard here, we got a whole lot of a very, I'd say, balanced scorecard compared to last time where it was primarily favoring GCU. We've had a lot more swingy rounds, at least comparatively to both sides. So definitely the kill count is a lot more even, because we have a 6-13, 7-3-9 against a 4-9, 7-8, 10. So like your lows make up for your highs. So you have a roughly similar kill count. Whereas last time, even though it was primarily favoring Texas Tech in the round count, there was like a 6 or 7 kill differential in favor of Grand Canyon. So I think that this is actually a really good, slightly favoring Texas Tech, I think, just because the kill differential is so close total overall, at least in terms of the momentum coming in here.
Yes, and we're going to see, where this decision comes in from GCU. I would love to see that top-down clear. We mentioned it before. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but it is going to be up to this attack and exactly how they can do it. Because last time, of course, Texas Tech won this site with 2 remaining, with a brilliant double kill from the Kaid of Sus, I believe. From, maybe it was Espen. Regardless, it was an easy hold for them. It was a 2v2 with a time on their side. With the Electro Claws in pocket, they had all the time in the world to just sit there and wait. And it appears that GCU will not be taking my advice on this particular round. They will be going straight for this bakery take. Espen will be the player elected to delay this, as the crossfire has now been established. He is in a brutal position, now beat within an inch of his life. He's now got 10, 15 HP to his name. We do have his bait trying to support here from Prep, but it's going to be too little, too late. But Buck will swing it! Oh my word! And Mend gets cut down early. Canned Coot, the Doc, trying to come in on the rescue, but it takes too much damage to make that one happen. Klimps will find bait over in Prep, but CB will get taken down. Oh, the trades come out as the breaching charge finds one, finishing off Espen, and Sus will connect with the aggressing Buck. It looked like it might have worked for just a second, but now the aggression has been punished, and GCU are on their way to heading to the decider map. But Cancun will do their best to stall this push as much as possible, but he'll have to find 3 kills here in this round, breaking it to 13 kills for him on this map. Easier said than done, of course, especially as now we're going to see Sus establishing this crossfire and making it a lot harder for the Doc to hold down this site.
Yeah, and the Doc misses the headshot, and Klims gets Cancun. As we said, we punish the overextension. As soon as the overextension happened in the, I wouldn't necessarily say hyper-aggression coming out from the Maestro, but just being in an inopportune position for like a traditional clear and then challenging and not successfully meeting that challenge, or I should say the defense challenging the attacker coming into Bakery and then not successfully doing that, they just dug themselves into a really deep hole. They couldn't get themselves out. And then 3 people on the 10 mark on the double digits coming out of GCU. You're talking about that even split amongst them. That's exactly what we got here on the 7-5.
And that is a brilliant way to continue this grand final. And I could not imagine this any other way. Grand final of the CEA Open League, taking us all the way to our decider map of Villa. But it will be coming up in just a few moments. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, stick with us and we will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking with us. We have now returned and we have got a show for you. It is Villa, map number 3 in this Open League grand final between Texas Tech and GCU. It has been interesting so far. We've seen fantastic plays from players, we've seen terrible plays from others, but both of these teams look good, they look ready, and I know we are going to see some fantastic play in map number 3. Once again, my name is Jays Wills, and I am joined by the one and only Coin Man. Coin Man, talk to me about your feelings going into Villa here.
So as we have noted, the Texas Tech are going to be or will tell you more accurately. Normally, we would choose who has the round differential. Since there was no round differential, there was another method used to do that. I believe it was whomever was home originally got to choose, and so Texas Tech is attacking first, and it's a matter of, especially for this, how easy is it to get into sight? Because as we saw, that's really what dictated the tempo of these defensive rounds, at least on the side of GCU. If it's easy to get into sight with about 45 seconds left, Texas Tech could just walk in, kill the person watching the angle, walk in, get 3 more kills, and win the round. It's a matter of, can you stop that on Villa? Villa is a more inherently roamer-friendly map, so we're kind of have to see how well each of these teams can leverage roaming. At least from what we can tell, Texas Tech definitely thrives a little bit more in this kind of setting just due to the skewing aggressive defensive side they play. But we definitely know that Grand Canyon can easily punish that. So it's going to be a dynamic of how well can Grand Canyon punish those hyper-aggressive defenses, which Villa favors, against can Grand Canyon make it hard for Texas Tech to enter sight. Whether or not how many people are left can they walk in? That's really the question mark here is, can Texas Tech walk into sight with 45 seconds left? Yes, no, and that generally is what determines who wins the round.
What's interesting is that I would typically expect teams to prefer the defensive half on Villa. Generally, at the collegiate level, this does skew defensive-sided, but we are seeing, starting in Pro League and working its way down, this map is getting increasingly attacker-favored. Not flipping fully over to the attacking half, but as teams get familiar with this traditionally defensive-sided map, the attacks have become a lot easier. The attackers get their feet under them. They know exactly how to approach this. And so that is why Texas Tech have elected to attack on the first half, and GCU have elected to attack in the case of overtime. But I do want to talk about Cafe and things we can learn going into Villa. And I never like to criticize teams too much for their play style. I never like to go into that. I usually focus on the positives. But from the side of Texas Tech, we did not see a lot of positives on Cafe. It was the big negative I need to discuss here. I think we're all thinking it is, why did they swing everything and just throw their bodies into the bullets of GCU? They did not have to play as aggressive as they did. Sure, that aggressive style has worked for them before. It's kind of how they play. They've got Bait and Buck and Cancute, these really valuable gunners, but these gunners would be much better served in a more passive role, because it's not like they're going to lose gun skill by not taking a fight in that particular situation for 10 seconds playing passively. You're still going to retain your gun skill. You don't have to go charge at the attackers and hope for something to happen. So I think for Texas Tech to win this, we are going to have to see a more disciplined defensive style than they have shown for us tonight. And I know Villa is not the map that typically lends itself to passive defense, because it's such a roam-heavy map. Nomad is essential here because flanks are everything. So they're going to have to find a mix of playing Villa like a smart aggression rather than untamed, uncalculated, immature aggression. They have to find a balance, and the balance was closer to existing on Clubhouse than it was on Cafe, and that is simply why we saw Texas Tech take Clubhouse and why they didn't take Cafe. They have proven that they have the gun skill to win. They just have to apply that gun skill in the proper moments, and that is what is going to be their key here. And if GCU can take advantage of that, if they allow Texas Tech to continue that aggressive play style, I think GCU could end the night victorious as your Open League champions.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. One thing that we do want to notice here is that there was a 6-pick off of a clash. So at least it looks like our drone conservation was done pretty well. So there still is that very big option of we got to get ready for a clash. And they just got to realize they're like, oh, they're trying to slow us down. And they really want this to be slow. And it looks like we're just dedicating all the Wamais over to one side. But that's kind of really what they got to do. They just really got to slow down the push of TTU so that they get into that really heavily frantic position where we see them mess up. We just don't see Texas Tech do that particularly well under stress, and things just get really cheeky. That's a cheeky proximity sensor there. But you just got to put them in positions where they're uncomfortable. And we see Grand Canyon, at least on this particular side, we see the similar problem where, oh, there's the Ash Charge going off, getting that Maestro Cam, where you just got to not let them walk in. And that's it's all this dynamic realm reaction times, as we're seeing a lot of postulation and just kind of postulating around the site. They haven't pushed in yet, which is definitely favoring GCU, except for the bucket ended up getting killed here. We see the down and the kill from Cashier also getting Buck, and then the drop down accidental, who knows. But it looks like we are going to come up on the flank here as Klims is playing on red stairs with about 1:15 left in the round.
So Buck did what Buck does best, walk into sight and click heads. He did that, but got traded, as Klims will find another, and Cash will find a second. So now a 2 versus 4. GCU on the attack, on their own defensive half, rather. I mean, that was clean. Oh my, that was clean. CB finding Espen, winning the round handily for that defense. And for Texas Tech, picking attack. You would expect them to have a better planes and games, AVG, whatever you want to call it. You would expect them to have a better attack there. And they seemed flustered. They seemed disconnected, disjointed, and it was GCU who took that round with ease.
So just to clarify a little bit, it was a coin flip, and then GCU got to choose a side, so GCU did choose defense first. So Texas Tech did not want to be in this particular position. So it looks like GCU, this must be like their secondary map or something. I don't have the records to see what maps that they've played, at least on hand easily. But it definitely seems like they are well aware of how well this map works and what they need to do. And they are just going to go for it and then leverage that as much as they can, as now they pivot to trophy and statuary, because that's where you got to go. Because unlike other maps, the tertiary site is not that good. It's definitely a step down and measurably worse than the other ones. Unlike there are a couple other maps, at least in the pool, like for example on Theme Park. There are definitely 3 sites on Theme Park that are pretty good, that you can definitely operate on at roughly the same level of axes. But so they just got to try and get there and do the thing. And it looks like they are definitely on the appropriate thing to do that. No shields coming out because they don't have a smoke, interestingly enough, but they do have 6 sets of barbed wire, which is exactly what we expect from the attempt to just simply slow down the attack.
Yeah, and what we saw from that attack last round was your traditional north to south clear. It was Texas Tech did opt for your normal approach to the site, but when they got to the site itself, they got a bit aggressive with it, and GCU punished them for it. And so now heading over to trophy and statuary, generally the secondary bomb site of choice, we're going to have to keep an eye on exactly what Texas Tech want to bring to the table here. Generally, you have 2 options as an attacking squad. Approach from the study side and do your south to north take, as Buck finds the head of Klims running straight on in the basement and removing that roamer early on. Good start for Texas Tech. But the second option you have as your attacking team, you can just come on into the master bedroom, go for a very direct and aggressive take, and knowing Texas Tech, that is exactly what I was expecting them to do, and that is exactly what they're doing here in round number 2. After that opening pick, Texas Tech not wasting any time to continue this pressure and go directly onto this site. Already challenging up into bathroom and eventually onto astronomy, but there will be a patient and waiting Cash ready to shut this down. A C4 detonates, will not connect with any attacker, and now this pressure will continue to build. The drones continue to be deployed and passed on through the site as CB forced to rotate away.
Yeah, no, so unlike like the really quick pushes we're seeing a more methodical push, really heavy, really early on with about a minute 50 left. We see the Iona coming in and just beating up the barbed wire at the bottom of Astronomy. Now we see the Ash trying to push out the mute on the Astronomy stairs, or at least pushing out whomever's behind Astro desk. But there also happens to be the mute on the corner. Frag grenade coming out and whiffed. Let's see if this will come out. Yep, it activated quick enough to see if they find it here. Frag grenade gotten from Buck. Buck getting the double from that here. Sus getting bait as well, being a really major thing here. Let's see who can swing out and get it. Cancute also getting Menzier 4v1 now with Cancute getting the double. Let's see if the triple Pokespartan getting CB. I think a lot of that came down to they just couldn't delay fast enough. Look at how much time was left on the clock. I think it was like a minute 20, and then they already had everyone on site because it wasn't really contested and they weren't able to slow them down.
A traditional, or well, a Texas Tech typical attack, to say the least. I mean, that was exactly what we've seen from them before. They delivered it. It was aggressive. It was efficient, and it went straight on into the site. They clicked heads, and they won the round. That is a story we have told about this attack time and time again, and it seems that that will be the story we will be continuing to tell and will continue to unfold in front of our eyes here in this grand final decider map. So GCU will be opting to repeat the same site, going back to Trophy and Statuary. The big crux of that round, the early pick coming out on Klimps on the Soul Roamer, was a big one. It really forced the defenders to realize to have to play a bit more passively, just hold down the site as long as they could, and without their big gunner using that 416 that the Jaeger can bring to the table, it was a tough road to climb, a tough round to secure, and Texas Tech, they used that man advantage to storm in all 5 at once, taking control of Astronomy, taking control of Statuary, and taking off the heads of GCU.
What it looks like here is they said, okay, they managed to push it too fast because there was only like a minute 20 left on the clock and suddenly we were all dead, right? So now they've decided to pivot into using a castle on particular windows just to be like, okay, we're going to make them burn utility here. Because if we're looking at utility that can open that, we do have there's actually a lot. Shockingly, they have a sledge, which does pretty good work on those castle barricades. But more importantly, 4 frag grenades and 3 breach charges plus 3 ash charges, which is a lot. That's a lot of utility just to clear random nonsense, especially when castles are around in that. And Cash nearly got their head taken off by Buck just spraying through the window as you normally do so that you can get your drone through.
Well, I like the point you mentioned about Ash and her utility that she brings to the table. And that's exactly what we saw in this previous meta and the meta that we are now seeing evolve in front of our eyes. This utility consumption simulator, Ash, played a huge role in that because formerly 2 breaching charges and 3 flash grenades, huge. Just a ton of utility to burn. And now, even without the flash grenades, with the breaching charges or the Claymore as a secondary gadget, Ash is still a very viable utility-heavy operator. 3 breaching rounds, all of which can take out deployable shields as Klimps will take out Buck. The roam from Klimps being effective, the key to this GCU defense so far. But like I was saying, it's Ash still in that utility consumption role, now alone with the rest, well, not alone, with the rest of her team here through the Master's site, going for this direct take as Buck, opting for that roam clear, was punished early on.
We did see that first frag grenade getting eaten by an ADS. We don't know the number of ADSs, at least they don't anyway. As we see, ooh, C4 might be 2? Only 1, okay. Cash getting bait here in a very excellent throw there, and now we're at a point where, yep, and CB getting Espen, as we said. If they can slow the push and make it a lot more methodical, then they just start getting torn apart here. Now we have Cancute managing to get the refrag onto Klimps, but this ain't looking particularly great just because they don't have the Heart Breacher. They've lost a lot of their major utility to burn in quotes, the ADSs these days, but like, there ain't really a lot they can do here as Cancun and Pokespartan just taking massive damage as we're seeing the multi-person push and crossfire is just really challenging exactly what's going on here. And shooting client-side corpses are the best, aren't they? As Cancun manages to get CB and walks into sight, this might actually be the pivot here. Nope, okay, we got Sus managing to get Cancun, and then Mend with the really, really big pistol. Cleaning it up here, coming out. The big revolver.
Well, that is one way to end a round, the revolver in hand, but That was a good response from GCU. They figured out what was likely to happen in that round, a direct master take. And this time, Klimps stayed alive, took out Buck, who was trying to entry and potentially be the player responsible with clearing those Electro Claws or Bandit batteries from below. But because Buck was shut down early, the wall remained hard, and all Texas Tech could do was send it through the doorways, which, as we call them in Siege, could be a fatal funnel, and that they were. The attackers funneled in through 2 choke points and got taken down one at a time through those very doorways. So that is another typical Texas Tech attack strategy. Just send it on in as fast as you can. But GCU has done what they have done brilliantly all night long, which is adapt to Texas Tech's attacks and their defenses, figure out a way around it, pivot, change up your strategy, because they know exactly how to do that. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the night, those adaptations, changing up your strategy, can separate you and make you the better team. And we are seeing more changes, more adaptations coming out from GCU than we are from Texas Tech. Now, I would argue, going into the night, Texas Tech was not only favored, they were simply, on paper, the stronger roster. But because GCU has proved to be, fluid with their strategies, they adapt, they change things up. That is what has been crucial for them, and it has paid out in dividends tonight.
That's a good camera throw, getting it out in the tree and getting enough time to close the window again before anyone notices here. And it looks like they are going to do that north-south clear we mentioned before with both Can Coot and so it looks like we got 3 people coming in from the bathroom side here. 4. And it looks like just going to be the lone Jaeger is going to have to stall against 3 whole drones and 3 whole people. And it'll be interesting to see exactly where the Ash comes in. So the Ash is going to be coming in first floor, it looks like here. Okay, nope, also going up second floor to meet up with her friends as we see the rotate back downstairs. So now we're going to... Oh, my goodness! So close! And again, also seeing all the people in body is getting narrowly close, but Klimps is doing his job well enough, or their job well enough. Just delaying time and making it more difficult for them to move. Because now we're at 2 minutes, we only have people into Master, and you just got to slow them down. And as long as everybody's alive, that makes it a lot easier for that defensive, especially rotating back up the side of red.
Well, now Can Coot, it's on their mind to secure 90 control, while Buck will be starting their way into study, trying to get this pressure mounting onto the site. Now, this traditional north-south clear is going down pretty successfully. Buck sees the head of the Jaeger and will deliver the shots. Klimps, the first player to fall. Now, if we follow the pattern, that would indicate Texas Tech are well on their way to winning another round, because that has seemed to be their win condition. Remove Klimps from the board early, and you may as well secure your round right there. But we do have Cash, who's been very strong tonight. Not only a Valkyrie with very good cameras, but has a C4 below, ready to blow these attackers sky high. Can Coot is ready to challenge, however, as they will get some shots going onto Aviator, trying to find anyone who is dare to peek into the R4C's reflex sight, but CB will be taking this angle passively. Can Coot gets taken down. Cash delivering the shots. CB now positioned inside, being pressured from multiple angles here, but nobody is going to swing at the same time. But there goes Buck going in, but baited his teammate and did not swing at the same time. But now he will go for the swing, goes for the soft bang through the couch, and will secure the down onto CB. He's not going to know this for sure, though, because points are, of course, not on. And so Cashnet will now be on the flank as Bait takes almost all of his health away from the Toxic Babe at the hands of Sus. So now with 20 seconds remaining, Espen will get the kill on a Cash, but it's CB who gets picked up. So now it's a 3v3 with 15 seconds to go. The defenders are in a fantastic position here to stall this one out. Final Toxic Babe detonates as Sus finds the head of Bait. The plant goes down behind the vault door, but CB, the prone swing, and Mend will finish off the round. GCU, a great response to early Texas Tech aggression.
Yeah, they did a great response. They slowed them down, and I think the one major failing of Texas Tech's attack there was they just didn't communicate well enough to have both people push from both sides of of the games room or aviator fast enough, right? Because we saw the Iona move in, and then we saw the other operator move in, right? If they had moved in at the same time, I think that definitely would have been a lot closer and a lot more winnable on the side of TTU. But they're just, as we said, GCU is just able to slow down Texas Tech enough, and now they just said, "Screw it, we're not able to win. We don't think we can win trophy, so we're just going to go downstairs instead." Just because that hadn't been working out for us, we tried it twice; it didn't work out the way we wanted to. Just because it's too easy to get to site. That's basically what our metrics are. It seems is how easy is it for you to get to site? Oh, you enter a room, which you generally give easy, blow up a wall, you're in site. Oh, you enter the bathroom, which is generally easy to get into, and then suddenly you have access to site, right? And now they realize that is kind of the flaw, or that they realize that their defense doesn't really work there, so they're just going to try kitchen instead, just because they got to get all the rounds they can on the defensive side, because again, this is the last map of the grand finals. You got to get to number 7, and whoever gets to 7 first wins.
Yeah, so earlier when I said that Texas Tech had picked attack, I was indeed mistaken. GCU, they got to pick defense on this first half, and Texas Tech picked defense on overtime. So these teams are playing into the defensive meta that Villa tends to be. So 4-2 here, I would consider a win or a job well done for an attacking team. Just getting 2 rounds here on Villa can be enough. It can be enough because defense on this map can be easy to do. And so far, GCU are proving that. They're proving that not only is it easy, but they can handle it just fine, and they can stop even the greatest players that this Collegiate Siege has to offer. Buck and Bait have been largely shut down. I mean, everyone on Texas Tech has been shut down. Buck has found 4, but Bait, with 0 kills to their name, having, popped off hugely on map number 1, this is a big deal, and this is exactly what GCU need to continue to keep up this pressure. Stifle Bait. Stifle the team, not let Texas Tech find the picks, but Klimps will prove that he could just present himself to the gun of Buck, and Buck will deliver the headshot before swinging on in and doing most of the damage to Men. Looking for another, but it's the Pulse with the UMP. That is going to be CB, who delivers Buck to their early graves, and now the Fuse will be sending those cluster charges onto the site, but will find no target just yet. The C4 won't seal the kill either, as CB going to actually get taken down from Cancun, the AK-12. The next C4 sent on up, but won't connect. 2 C4s remaining, though. The Nitro Cell Bonanza coming to fruition here tonight, but Cash on a flank in 90 is looking to get more aggressive, not bothering to play vertical with that C4, going directly for that flank, but for now, we'll fall back and wait.
Yeah, now in these spread apart corners, we have easy eyes on site, although you are slightly off it, especially when playing against the fantastic gun that Fuse has. You have 2 of those really bonkers AKs right now, right? You have both Fuse and Cancun and Espen with it, and we know they're good guns, so good guns with good shooters with the best gun definitely trends towards something that would be a success. But again, it has been slowed. We're at the point where this whole interaction has been slowed. Okay, now we're at a 4v2 where you got a minute left, and they are now finally moving on to site. And it's one of those things where we did see that it was more difficult to move in there, but they just managed to get those early frags, and they weren't able to properly convert. So now we're in a 4v1 with 50 seconds left. We do see the Goyo doing the Goyo job here, and then the proning, the fat fingering, and not much you can do, especially when you got 3 people looking at you from multiple different angles, including above.
And I think the story of that round was the vertical control. There was very little defenders contesting the top floor presence. That gave Tech full control of the top floor almost instantaneously, and they used that to Swiss cheese the entire ceiling, get all the lines of sight onto the anchors, onto the players playing on the site itself, and I think they found 3 kills just from the vertical play alone, if not 4, and that is, I believe it was 3, and that is a brilliant way to play this site. That is exactly what you need to do on Kitchen. It is vertical play city. You Swiss cheese the floor, not to mention you throw in some Fuse cluster charges, and that will force the defenders into those already opened vertical positions, feeding them into your arms. And so That is what Texas Tech did so well there. You gotta highlight that. They played that one perfectly. They played it a little bit more disciplined than we've seen from them in the past, and it was actually GCU who swung a couple angles there that they had no business swinging rather than Texas Tech. So the roles swapped around a little bit, and by no surprise, the round falling in the hands of Texas Tech. But it was the tertiary bomb site. It's harder to defend for a reason. And now, heading back to trophy and statuary, this one has gone both ways on this half. In round number 6, the final round of this split, all eyes on GCU. And if they can solidify a good defensive half by taking this round, or if Texas Tech can take 3 rounds, because 3 rounds on Villa attack is a job exceptionally well done.
Yeah, and now we have the action phase starting. And it looks like we got a couple people downstairs. Valkyrie pivoting around, making sure to get all them cameras out and about. And it looks like we do have no immediate challenges, but we do see an Amaru not necessarily used for a quick attack, but definitely for a quick push. So we know we have 2 people here. CB is likely going to get double pushed out here, because the Ash won't necessarily challenge. We see a whole slew of drones coming in here, checking in, and Buck, okay, so that's a trade there. Getting Cancoot, who I believe was the top, okay, doing reasonably well here, and then Buck refragging CB. So we're on a 4-4, losing a lot of utility off of that Ash here against a Mute who likely has already used all of their Mute jammers. So definitely, in terms of the utility trade, Grand Canyon on that by a mile.
Yeah, and we're going to have to see how that utility is going to be a detriment to this attack as we get further in this round. And we are going to see Cash once again playing below. C4 in hand, assisted by, I'm sure, a Valcam or 2 in master bedroom, possibly a 90 even, as the pings continue to rain out. And yeah, he's looking for that kill in 90 and possibly in games, but the sledge, that's bait, continuing to be just a bit too elusive. So the Valkyrie's going to relocate here, hope to find anything, but there's no way that that C4 is going to connect. That was in a place that no attacker will generally be standing. So a little bit of a missed play there from the Valkyrie, as now Buck does what Buck does best, swings straight on into the site, but it is Klimps who will punish Buck for that maneuver. And now Klimps will get aggressive, looking for another. Bait down to 1 HP for that, but with 1 HP, he swings it with the SMG-11 and takes down Klimps, keeping us even. 3v3 now with 1:10 remaining in this round. Bait with 1 HP. The frag grenades rain on through. Espen still has been unable to open this wall all day, but may finally be able to do that as Bait has the angle to take out that Electro Claw potentially. I'm not sure if he's done it yet. No, the wall is continuing to remain hard. Finally, it has been taken out. Now the Sentinels go down, but so will Bait. Possibly the Maestro Cam delivering that. It will. The Maestro Cam takes down Bait. Oh my. Great use of utility from Sus, and now it's Espen and Pokey Spartan, but Sus with the Alda finds the head of one. Espen with the retaliating shots onto Cash, but now with the 1 HP, it is Sus and the Alda. All the bullets in the world, and GCU 4-2 on their defensive split.
Yeah, important to note there that Sus did get a triple on their own. In secondary, they wasted 2 frag grenades on trying to get that Maestro Cam and bricked. So the Sledge in Bait missed 2 frag grenades, and that really played into literally his death because he was unable to clear that Maestro Cam. And so I think that was a very key portion of this particular round. And now, because they couldn't win it before, and again, they won because aside from a slight misplay coming in from Bait, they just couldn't push fast enough, and they excel in the once they decide to execute the fast pushes, and they tried to execute and then they couldn't, and it kind of fell flat. So now we're going on the side of GCU getting the attacks, and we have a Sledge, A Sophia, Ash, IQ, which are all basically hard picked. The Sledge moving into a Maverick, okay, probably to clear out the Maestro Cams and among other things, and a Cap Cam. We get the trap operators coming in. Though that I do think that is an interesting 6 pick off of a Valkyrie in terms of info ops with a known IQ in play.
Yeah, and maybe the Legion would have been a better choice there to switch off to the Capcan, because Valkyrie is the queen of information. I mean, it's your pseudo echo on the board that you can run to just give you a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips. And that is so essential, especially when you want to rain out those C4s potentially. We will only have 1 C4 on board, and it will be Bait, the 6 pick onto Capcan, who will be bringing that C4. And clearly Bait's just going to be looking to counter a potential aggressive push from GCU, maybe just get a little bit of damage dealt early, and that will help the eventual defending on that site when the push comes in those final seconds of the round. But taking a look at where we're at the halfway point. You take a look at your scoreboard, you see everybody, they put up reasonable numbers. Bait has found 3. He's no longer been shut down. I mean, this is exactly what Bait needed to do, but it's 4-2 in the hands of Grand Canyon University right now. And that is about even. It's about where you want it to be. And based on that, this feels a lot like we could head to overtime in map 3, especially because the teams have been back and forth on each side of the coin all night long. And so I would not be surprised if Texas Tech could take 4 rounds here, but Grand Canyon may have 2 rounds, their ability to take 2 rounds as well. But I'm not going to count either of these teams out here. Grand Canyon could very well run away with this, and so could Texas Tech if they are not careful. We are going to see the pocket reinforcement go down as the push up towards Classical through Study begins now from the Maverick. That is going to be Mend as the drone army will be pouring out at the Maverick's feet at the same time. Our 5 defenders mostly positioned on site. The Doc of Cancun, he's in 90, but Cash will take him out. The off-site presence now is only Buck, who is over here on landing, but he'll have to wait for the opportune moment, and Buck once again is just hiding in a bush. We'll see if that one bears any fruit, but as this attacking pressure is a very direct take onto Study, I don't think this position from Buck is going to be too strong.
Yeah, Sus comes in and manages to get Espen. No, this isn't even necessarily an over-aggressive stance as we had seen before here. It's just like they executed well and they managed to get the wall next to Bar open. And I think Cash managed to get 2 here just from people slightly off-site, and Klimps getting the overextension. And I realistically don't think it was an overextension. I think it was just a whiff on the side of the cap can. And it looks like we see the smokes coming out, trying to smoke out the planter, and that was successful. And it looks like the double smoke will get the kill here as Buck manages to get Klimps, CB gets Pokespartan, and Pokespartan from the grave manages to get Sus. And now we're in a 1v3 with the Legion being the only one and protecting the diffuser. Though it's going to be rather difficult, especially with the... Okay, that brings it a lot closer, especially with a minute left here. We do have the perfect pings coming out from the Maestro, and now they're just going to have to try and retrieve the diffuser. Especially this is going to be a little bit difficult where the site is completely controlled here. As we see the Maverick pivoting to the other side to try and get a better look here. And now we're suddenly in a 1v1 here with Buck getting tagged a little bit here. The Diffuser picked up. We'll see if it gets starting to get planted, and it looks like it is getting planted behind Bar. We do know that there is sight coming in from that main study, or the main office. We don't know if that will be used. Looks like it is not used. And it looks like we're getting an impact to get vision on the head, and you could barely not see the head, and the quad comes out to narrowly win that.
Buck. Oh my word. That is impressive stuff. The quad kill and the clutch in round number 7. It looked like GCU were completely running away with that, but it's the lone Legion sneaking around, hiding in a bush. That is going to be the crux of this round and the bane of that GCU attack. I mean, wow. What a 4K. That is exactly the player you want in that clutch situation with the numbers that Buck has been putting up all season long. What a play, and what a way to keep this one close. I was looking at that scoreline going, is this about to be 5-2 GCU on top? But Buck denied that, said not a chance. And at 3-4 now, they are within their way, almost on their way to securing that comeback and bringing it back even to 4-4 as we head to another very strong site, Trophy and Statuary.
I think there is a really... Ooh, we see the... Okay, that's rather odd from pivoting the Wamai to the Warden. But I think there's a thing to be said where I think much of that round is going to happen was basically function upon how well GCU was able to coordinate. They nearly had it. They had a reasonable shot at winning, and then they just didn't coordinate well enough in the last round. But based on that round alone, I'm pretty sure that Grand Canyon definitely has a much better attacking side, and we have seen historically a much better attacking side on average comparatively against what Texas Tech does. So I think that as long as they can keep up that standard and then force Texas Tech to mess up first, I think that's where we're going to see where this ends up here. And that's kind of what happened is the person who, they had the better attack, but then they screwed up first in terms of how organizing to push that last Legion out of sight. And I think that's really about how this big fixture is going to go down here, especially on Trophy Statuary, is how well can they coordinate and how well can they clear out the people outside of sight.
Yeah, and that will definitely be the focus of this round. And round number 8, that is now we see Cancun getting aggressive once again on that Vigil, trying to challenge onto the player entering through main. It appears that rather than that direct master send, it will be a south to north clear, as Klimps, the wall bang, finds the head of Cancun. I think that was very much an accidental headshot there, but it was a calculated wall bang, and it paid off in dividends there. Well, that's a good way to start if you're this GCU attack, with Klimps finding that early headshot. This time, Klimps getting that first frag in the round. Buck being droned out. Here comes that push, but he'll be forced to fall away. Smart maneuver there from the Jaeger, trying to play time here rather than playing that red stairs position. But that means that this attack will now have full 90 control and be ready to mount this pressure towards the site.
Just as a quick note there, the reason why that spray through the wall even occurred was because there was a drone under the table that saw the Cancun walk into that portion behind the pool table. So it was while a lucky shot, it was a measured spray based on information they already had. Though we have slowed the attack a reasonable amount here, especially with like a minute 30 left here, you know? They really haven't done a whole lot except for get rid of the Vigil. Not a whole lot has happened. The drone has hopped in, as you can see here. They now know that the Warden is now hiding inside that closet, and they're just going to try and pivot somewhere else here. And it looks like they are pushing over on the southwest side as their main fixture of attack here. Men getting bait here as well.
Yeah, with the toxic babes going out, it's going to delay this as much as possible, but Cash doesn't care. He'll find Espen after Espen found one. Pokey Spartan gets completely sandwiched, and Cash will find it, and CB will round it off with the head of Buck dropping to the floor, and GCU responded to Texas Tech's aggression with some aggression of their own, and boy, oh boy, did it pay off big.
And it's one of those things, as I said, I'm pretty sure that GCU has the better technical attack just based on sheer stats that we've seen over the past 3 maps. So they just got to try and hammer it home and just do it as the best they can and just not lose on the defensive half, which they did. They operated well enough in the defensive half to not lose too many rounds. So now we're going back to trophy statuary here. We're just going to see a similar thing, and they're just going to have to try and push them out and just clean it up. And it looks like that Warden is going to be put in a similar place and just try to protect this incidentally, at least in that case. Nobody pushed from Master, so Warden didn't really become impactful in that. So we'll see if Warden gets pivoted around to move somewhere else to be a little bit more impactful, at least on the push.
Well, I gotta highlight how strong that roam clear was from GCU. I mean, that was as textbook as it gets. I mean, we saw the beautiful drone positioning, like you said, and then the wall bang delivered on a Cancun. Then they pushed up into landing, forced out the Jaeger, who was positioned on red stairs. Didn't even give Buck a chance to defend that position whatsoever. I mean, perfect roam clear. Allowed them to extend that pressure onto site and get a decisive push going, and it worked in a big way. So Texas Tech, I don't think they made much of a mistake there. I really think they played as hard as they could on that round, but Grand Canyon simply just played better. I mean, that was great stuff from them. Cancun now going to be reinforcing the very wall he died to last time, or at least part of it. He's not going to risk.
Yeah, see,
and yeah, he's sending us a message saying that I will not allow this to happen once again. But you never know. It could happen. It could happen, as Klimps is now working up the same position as last time. I am going to guess going to go for that same wall bang.
Yes, maybe here, and especially, let's see that drone under the desk wasn't found again, but nobody's on that side. So they're able to make the accurate thing and push in and take it. So it looks like they gave up this side a little bit more easily than they would suspect, because they did let someone slip by over into 90 hallway. Now it's a real matter of who finds the Jaeger and when, because that Jaeger is now in between everybody. Seeing the Jaeger in 90 Klimps getting Cancun on a significantly more reasonable axis than the last time here. It looks like we see Buck slowly retreating here, as Cancun being the first one caught out.
That was a good roam clear, but that time Cancun made the mistake. He had no business going back there and overstaying his welcome and challenging that, because he was supported by Buck as well. They had ample time to fall back to site, play on site. You want that 416 with you. You want the Vigil with you on that site. But for Cancun, his time in this round will be no more, as now it is a 5 versus 4 in favor of GCU once again. The danger here for Texas Tech, this could very well be the penultimate round before we see match point on the board. And obviously, Texas Tech are going to look to stop this before it can happen as Buck continues his aggressive peaks on towards landing. But now, rotating around, that's going to be CB, as well as the Ash, now creeping up red stairs here. But this pressure is continuing to build. We're just going to have to keep an eye on exactly how successful it will be dealing with this extension into Closet by Bait and dealing with this player, this aggressive Jaeger in the hands of Buck.
Yeah, with Buck getting Grismodded and finally getting unconcussed, we now are just trying to clear out the shield and missed on that shield clear. And now we see the Warden getting a little bit active on meeting, trying to fight the IQ a little more. Frag grenade going out from somebody here as we see Bait challenging the IQ and losing, which is really big here. Because now we're in a 3v5. They have lost Master Bedroom with 45 seconds left. Now have ample time to push. We do see the Smoke challenging the Ash, I believe. Okay, the Ash is below trying to challenge the Smoke here. As Klimps gets the double kill onto Espen, and now Buck rotates out, manages to get Sus here. Klimps is down, will likely have to get themselves up here. Now the Smoke got, and now it looks like we're not going to have time for that as we see the get up, and we do have the good old self get up, getting Klimps for the withstand, more accurately, managing to get Klimps the third kill of the round, I believe.
Oh my word. It is now match point for Grand Canyon University here in the grand finals. I don't think anybody thought we would get this far. We're saying the #1 seed is being methodically eliminated by the 47th seed. Talk about an underdog story, but GCU are not putting up any reservations right now. They have sent it in to this attack with a cold, calculating nature that I don't think we even saw in the previous 2 maps. Sure, they were able to take Cafe, but not like this. This is clean play from them. This is not simply mistakes from Texas Tech. Texas Tech probably came into this map changing up the way they wanted to play this, backing off of that aggression a little bit, trying to make fewer mistakes. I would say they are making fewer mistakes, but it does not seem to matter. GCU are on a tear. They're putting on a show, and they are here to win it. They do not want to go any further in this one. They want to take a 7-3 victory against Texas Tech, and that is what they're going to try to do as we head back over to AVG Plains and Games for round number 10.
So I wonder, as we're looking to see how impressive they are on the attacker side, is did GCU win this in the map ban phase, right? Like, if they end up winning this round and winning it, is this because they pivoted really accurately on the map ban and just played it smartly? And that could be an entire reason as to why they did this really successful run into the Open League playoffs, is if you know how to do your map bans right, you can put yourself really far, because you may say, oh, we put our weaker map as the first one, right? Just incidentally as to how things are chosen. Or we put our secondary map as our third map, because our secondary map is one people don't care about a lot. So you're able to leverage the map ban phase into something that actually is incredibly profitable in terms of your win rate, and that seems to be something that they have done here.
Yeah, I will agree with you that map ban surely plays a role, but I think that, you know, not focusing on this particular, like the gun skill that they put forward, the strategy they put forward here, I think, you know, you don't want to risk undervaluing how strong they've come here tonight. Sure, the map ban was important, but you are the underdog going into this match. No matter what you do pre-match, you are not going to win this game unless you show up in a big way. This is Bait and Buck we're talking about. These are players that do not lose. And Grand Canyon are here, and they are handing Texas Tech what could be an L right now, and that is just massive. But we're going to tone it back a little bit. We're going to focus on this particular round because this is AVG, the site that Texas Tech were able to successfully defend. And if they can take this round, be the momentum swing back in their favor potentially, as Bait will connect with Klimps, taking down one of the most valuable players on GCU early on, the Zofia, off the board now with 1:30 to play.
Yeah, and now this is a really slow, methodical push. As you see, there are no roamers. This time they're just taking it directly to site and just keeping it there because they realize that that is likely how they win. And then like a double crossfire coming in, taking out that IQ. definitely Texas Tech not wanting to go down without a fight here, as they are now deciding, okay, because this site can support it, we're not taking any chances. We got one rover over master, and that's it. Espen down and God, and it looks like we got a whiff, and Cancute doing the chase here and whiffing on the chase. Turns out that when you have one of the best guns in the game in short range, just challenging it and whiffing the headshot multiple times and then getting killed for it, Mend on the triple. Oh no, we now suddenly have pivoted into a 3v2 with Buck slightly offside. He's going to have to come in here, and then it looks like, let's see if the ace comes in here, and then misses again, and Buck is going to have to pull out the pistol. And now we're in a 1v2 for the Open League title here. Poke Spartan is going to have to pull, not an unreasonable thing, as the sledge can easily be gotten by the smoke here. So this is a really tight play into particularly Vault.
The nades come through. Pokey Spartan taking quite a bit of damage here. The Toxic Babe, though, could deliver the kill on a Mend, and it will down Mend for the rest of this round. It's a 1v1. Sus versus Pokey Spartan, M590 in hand. He'll go for the swing, but Sus denies it, and GCU are your Open League champions. The GGs come out, and what a good match it was, Coin Man.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. We saw the evolution of the team go from we do not understand how to defend against this team to we understand how to to just slow it down just enough to get where we need to be in our defensive rounds. And that's exactly what we saw in map 2 and map 3. And they just pushed it in and then just threw it all against the wall, and they leveraged their good attacks, which we knew they already had for map 1, and just added those and shored up their defenses and took it. Now let's not discredit this fantastic run that Texas Tech had. They were undefeated up until literally the Open Finals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fantastic run. I'm excited to see where they'll go here, as I believe they also do get a shot at relegations as well. Correct me if I'm wrong in that particular case. But good on them. They do manage to take home the $300 in cash and their good old Corsair HS50 Pro headsets. And we will be getting an interview from Sus. Let's see if he actually isn't an imposter. And what else am I gotta try?
Top tier joke right there. Yes,
I know.
Definitely the joke to make in this situation. But oh my word, I mean, this was simply astounding from GCU. The 47 seed versus the 1 seed. I don't think anyone expected that this would be the scoreline at the end of the night. A 7-3 victory, bringing it back in that last round. I mean, wow. Simply amazing stuff from GCU. I'm excited to talk to Sus, and I'm sure they're absolutely loving it right now. They're having a great time, so we don't want to keep him for too long. And Sus, welcome to the caster booth here. Just huge congratulations to you on the victory.
Thank you.
Just incredible stuff. And I gotta ask, like, your mindset right now, you know, taking this, what some would call an upset victory against Texas Tech. How are you feeling?
We feel really good. I mean, going into it, we know Texas Tech's a great team. They have some incredible players, so we knew going into this it was going to be a tough game. But I mean, we pulled it out at the end there. So,
well, great stuff there. And you know, you did end up winning in map 3 after losing your own map pick. Talk to me about the transition between map 1 and map 2 and what you guys focused on to make the changes for Cafe.
So I mean, on map 1, they pretty much just walked in sight like every single round on defense and got free picks. So going into map 2, we kind of just like decided we're going to play more on site and kind of just take gunfights, opposed to like letting them just walk into us. So by playing more aggressive, we figured we might be able to counter them and kind of slow down their pushes a little bit.
Well, it really worked in a tremendous way, and I'll pass you over to Coinman for his next questions.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I just have to ask, so you knew that was the issue, right? That they could just kind of walk in on site, and that was a perpetual problem we saw. What more directions did you take to make them slow down their push? And then secondarily with that, how were you able to pivot that into your really successful attacks? Because that's one of the things we commented on a lot. If you go and end up reviewing this VOD later, is your attacks were remarkably successful by a monstrous margin relative to what Texas Tech's were. Because I made a comment where at the end of the first map, even though you lost 7-5, your kill delta was up by 6, 6 or 7 or something. So I guess my question is, how do you reconcile that, at least in terms of your play style, that we know we can win attacks, but our defenses really need work.
Yeah. So the first map we banned Malusi. And that kind of so going into Cafe, we left the Malusi up. And our kind of idea for that was to, if we're gonna play, we can play this Malusi and slow down those pushes, hopefully, and leave it so that way when they do open breach, they can't just walk in. As far as our like attacks go, I mean that's kind of been GCU's bread and butter all season. Is we're gonna do our attacks, we're gonna do what we do really well, and we're just gonna go at sight. And if we're gonna do that, we're gonna do that. But I mean, our attacks. I mean, me and Mend usually drone everybody in, and then I mean Cash and Klimps and CB. I mean, they pretty much do the rest there and just frag out. So with just good drone work coming out from Men for the most part. I mean, we're droning constantly. I'm not sure if you guys see it on the
Mhm.
stream, but I mean, I'm on drone, Sam's on drone 75% of the round until like the last minute and a half. We're getting off drone and starting our execute. So we're really trying to full clear everything and make sure that when we're pushing on site, we have the rest of the team in sight and we can kind of just pick them off from there.
Well, I only got one last question for you. I'm mildly disappointed with your name
I'm
that
sorry.
you do not have an Among Us profile picture in Discord.
So I mean it's something I've had for a while. I just kind of stuck with it, and then when Among Us like became big, I mean I'm not sure if I can really talk about my picture on on the stream, but it's kind of just been my
Yeah.
picture for a couple years. But
Mhm.
I might have to consider changing it here soon.
Well, before we hand it off for the close, do you have any comments you'd like to say or like to call out anyone particularly specific?
We'd just like to thank the boys at Texas Tech. I mean, they had a great season, great match, and they did a great job. We hope to play them and see them again soon. In addition to that, thank you to everybody for the support, everybody at GCU, and all of our friends through the collegiate scene. I mean, without them, this really isn't possible. So
Well, thank you so much for stopping by for this interview. And once again, profound congratulations to you, Open
thank
League
you.
champions. You will have your chance to play up for the Invite League. And I think that could be a great opportunity for you guys. Go congratulate with your team. Go celebrate with your team. Congratulations and have a great night, Sus.
Thank you, y'all. You all have a good rest of your night too.
All right,
Yep, you
so
too.
long.
Bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude the final stream, at least for this Open League championship. That is going to be GCU, your Open League champions. And once again, we do have relegation, so that will be coming up next with the not tonight, obviously, but later it will be GCU and Texas Tech. They have the opportunity to play up into the Invite League. And for the last time in this Open League season, we do have our chance to thank our amazing sponsors for their role in this league. First of all, Corsair, their amazing support, all your PC peripherals that you may need, not to mention they have been so generous in paying for and providing such great gear for our finalists and our runners-up, giving them some great prizes. Secondly, Rogue Energy, fuel your game with Rogue Energy, 10% off with code CEA at checkout. And finally, whatsnew.com for your merch, not only for your merch of your favorite esports team, but you can make some custom merch of your own. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in. It has been a pleasure to bring you such a fantastic match, such a fantastic grand final. And for myself, Jays Wills, and for Coinman in the booth, and for Calvrix in the production booth and on the sticks tonight observing, we want to thank you all so much for tuning in, and we hope you have a great rest of your week. Good night, everybody.